Old Mage Guy is now live, streaming Just Chatting, morning news with OMG.
Good morning, everybody. I'm still waking up. And Pasty Kitty wants to play, so she's sitting there putting it against my leg and all go on me. Isn't that right, Pasty Kitty? Yeah. Very big girl. Okay. I'm awake. I'm here. I have not had a cigarette or caffeine yet. I ran to the bathroom. You freaking home. So, we're trying the morning news over and Just Chatting this morning. Because, well, it's kind of the point of this. We'll chat about it. Grr. Oh, shit. Late lunch. I didn't get the lunch one. So we have one from yesterday and then several for today, or at least three today already.
Start looking for a new job because Donald Trump just issued an executive order where he aimed after a well-known law firm in Washington, Perkins Coie, to try to take them out of the running and get more federal business and to penalize them. But at the same time, he went after all major law firms, all the ones that didn't want to represent him during the last time around because he was too radioactive. And to get back at them, he's now making sure that the Equal Opportunity Commission and Pam Bondi, his Department of Justice head, go after law firms who use diversity, equity, and inclusion in their hiring practices. Well, guess what? Sullivan and Cromwell, come on down. You just filed a brief earlier in the week on behalf of Donald Trump. I am going to take a look at your website right now, and you honor and you applaud diversity, equity, and inclusion in the hiring process. So long, Sullivan and Cromwell. I'm going to break down this new executive order and how it's already ricocheted to hit a law firm for Donald Trump here on Midas Touch and Legal AF. Let's start with the executive order. With much fanfare, Donald Trump sat in his Oval Office with that stupid Sharpie pen and said out loud, let me get the quote right, "It is my honor and absolute honor decide this. Now, Perkins Coie, let's start with that firm, then I'll move over to Sullivan and Cromwell. Perkins Coie has nothing to do with equity, diversity, and inclusion, except they always reserved in their summer associate class and for fellowships to make sure that we gave a hand up to those that came from a disadvantaged background or to have a diverse class in there. You don't want all, I'll just say the obvious out loud. You don't want all white guys in your law firm. I mean, that's not good for anybody. That's not good for client development. That's not good for legal services. That's not good for thinking outside the box, to have everybody in the same box. So he issues, back in 2020 or so, Donald Trump files a lawsuit against Perkins Coie along with Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee. You may remember down in Florida, in Miami, assigned to Judge Middlebrooks. That case got completely thrown out of court, and Donald Trump and Alina Habba got sanctioned almost $1 million by Judge Middlebrooks, who found it was nothing more than a political screen masquerading as a lawsuit without merit, and completely dismissed it. Now, this all stems from, if you remember, the Steele dossier, where it was all kind of determined during the Mueller investigation. Apparently, Perkins Coie and two lawyers that worked there that are kind of well known now, Mark Elias, who's no longer at that firm, and Michael Sussman, represented Hillary Clinton in the Democratic National Committee. They authorized some what we call them is op research, opposing research, black op research, by a company called FPS Fusion to look into rumors that the Russians have been interfering with the elections in favor of Donald Trump. Robert Mueller, during his investigation, determined that they were trying to actively interfere with the elections, even though Donald Trump says, Russia, no collusion. They're actually, I don't know about collusion, but certainly benefiting from the election interference that the Russians were doing for their own benefit. They may not have been colluding, but they were definitely running parallel. It's like two guys out for a jog. They were keeping pace with each other pretty well. I think that's the way that can be concluded. Donald Trump had Bill Barr appoint a new independent counsel, not really that independent, named John Durham, who spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars going after 3 or 4 different angles of attack. And he got one conviction out of about 7 or 8 different investigations. He went after Michael Sussman for lying to the FBI under oath about who his client was. He said it was Hillary Clinton. He said it was the Democratic National Committee. He didn't reveal it was Hillary Clinton. But the people he was talking to knew that the firm represented Hillary Clinton. It was on their website. I don't see how that could be a lie to the FBI. And neither did the jury. He got completely absolved in that case. But Donald Trump got driven mad. And ever since has wanted to retaliate against Perkins Coie. So now with this executive order, he's barred them. Here's what he wrote. Then we'll get to Sullivan and Cromwell and diversity, equity, inclusion. The dishonest and dangerous activity of the law firm Perkins Coie has affected this country for decades. Notably, in 2016, when representing failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, Perkins Coie hired Fusion GPS, which then manufactured a false dossier designed to steal an election. Well, actually, they consulted with Richard Steele, who generated the dossier. Perkins Coie has worked with activist donors, including George Soros. Oh, I haven't heard his name in a while.
Yeah.
He's not even running his own fund anymore. To judicially overturn popular, necessary, and democratically enacted election laws. I love that. Judicially overturn. It's a weird phrase. Popular, necessary, and democratically enacted election laws. That means judges took a look at it and said that the election laws violated the Constitution, including those requiring voter identification. In one such case, a court was forced to sanction Perkins Coie attorneys for an unethical lack of candor. How about the court that sanctioned Donald Trump and Alina Habba for suing Perkins Coie? Where is that in a footnote? But I digress. In addition to undermining democratic elections, the integrity of our courts, and honest law enforcement, Perkins racially discriminates against its own attorneys and staff in hiring applicants. They publicly announced that a percentage of quotas in 2019 for hiring and promotion on the basis of race and other categories, violating civil rights laws. This violates civil rights laws. It may be a little bit sideways of some recent Supreme Court precedent. My administration is committed to ending discrimination under diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, we've seen. And ensuring that federal benefits support the laws and policies of the United States. Those who engage in blatant race-based and sex-based discrimination, including quotas, but purposely hide the nature of such discrimination through deceiving language and engage in a serious violation of public trust. And who knows violates this public quality represents good cause to conclude that they either have access to our nation's secrets nor be deemed responsible stewards of any federal funds. He then goes on, here's the part that hits his own law firm. In Section 4 on racial discrimination, Trump says, the chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, shall review the practices of representative, large, influential, or industry-leading law firms. Well, that's easy to find. The American Lawyer publishes a list of the top 200 every year to see if they're consistent with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, including whether large law firms reserve certain positions, such as summer associate spots, for individuals of preferred races, promote individuals on a discriminatory basis, permit clients access on a discriminatory basis, or provide access to events, trainings, or travel on a discriminatory basis, and then he authorizes the Attorney General to work on those things as well.
Business taxes was always so long. Now business taxes is having
Or travel on a discriminatory basis, and then he authorizes the Attorney General to work on those things as well. Now, that's a wind-up. Let me give you the pitch. Here's what Sullivan and Cromwell, who represents Donald Trump, this is what they have to say on their own website. Now, they just filed a brief about 3 days ago to try to convince a federal court in New York to let Donald Trump appeal his 34-count felony conviction in federal court instead of state court. New firm, I did a whole report on it. Sullivan, Cromwell, big law is back. They don't find Donald Trump radioactive anymore. Maybe they will now. Here is, you be the judge. Here's the diversity, equity, and inclusion under a tab called diversity on this Trump law firm's own website. Sullivan and Cromwell is committed to fostering a diverse and inclusive work environment. We believe that diversity is vital to the firm's ability to provide our clients with the highest level of service. I guess those clients include Donald Trump. Accordingly, the firm's culture and policies value the unique abilities and perspective of every individual and support diversity, there's that word again, in its broadest sense, including race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, disability, and religious affiliation. The firm's diversity committee is co-chaired by a partner in the firm's litigation department and a partner in the firm's general practice department. Other members include senior chair, practice group members, and the rest. The diversity committee, Sullivan and Cromwell, Donald Trump's lawyers continue, in conjunction with the diversity management department, is charged with developing, implementing, and coordinating the firm's diversity initiatives. Realizing the importance of an integrated approach, they will work to monitor. In addition, our lawyers have diverse backgrounds, speaking 40 languages fluently in 40 different countries. And if you go to the hiring aspect, that was on diversity. You go to careers. Let me show you this picture. I don't know, you've got what appears to be an Asian person, a person from maybe Southeast Asia, 2 women, a white guy. I guess they're trying to talk about diversity. Maybe they should look over the executive order addressing the risks from Perkins Coie and decide whether they're now going to be targeted. And maybe that management committee and the general counsel for Sullivan and Cromwell should rethink whether they want to be in bed with Donald Trump. I love when a law firm gets hoisted on its own petard and they finally make a decision that the almighty dollar is greater than any ethics or any policies or any culture that make up their law firm, and they were willing to sacrifice all of that on the altar of their greed to make a buck with Donald Trump and to be able to list representing the 47th president in a criminal appeal. They counted on that more than all the other aspects that make them a law firm. Michael Bobach, I'm going to continue to call it out right here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. You've reached the right place for all things that matter, including DEI. No one tells us what to say. We're completely independent. We're completely uncensored.
The Trump regime said today that Columbia University was refusing to help the Department of Homeland Security identify people for arrest on campus after immigration authorities detained a Palestinian activist and recent Columbia graduate over the weekend. Trump said yesterday that the arrest and disappearance of Mahmoud Khalil was involved in leading pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. University last year was just the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social. He said many are not students, they are paid agitators. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. To be clear, supporting the Palestinians is not an endorsement of the terrorist organization Hamas, contrary to Donald Trump's propaganda, nor is it against the law to express political beliefs that are opposed by the government. The First Amendment right to free speech is extended to all residents of the United States, even if they aren't citizens. Authorities silencing free speech that they don't like comes under the banner of authoritarianism
And censorship.
It is against the law. That is where Donald Trump is right now. Now, as of today, Khalil has not been charged with any crime. However, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was relying on a provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 that gives him broad power to expel foreigners if they give him reasonable ground to believe their presence in the U.S. has potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. As of yesterday morning, Khalil was being held at an immigration detention center near Jena in Louisiana. Last night, a federal judge in Manhattan barred his deportation, pending a hearing in his case set for tomorrow. The American Civil Liberties Union and the Center for Constitutional Rights joined Khalil's legal team, led by his attorney, Amy Greer. Amy Greer stated on Monday that she'd spoken with Khalil, he was healthy and his spirits are undaunted by his predicament. Today, 13 members of Congress, led by the Palestinian-American U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib, issued a letter demanding his immediate release. Reports indicated that his arrest on the weekend, and remember he's a permanent U.S. resident, a recent Columbia University graduate, that his arrest was prompted by a State Department directive to revoke his green card, a move that is illegal under U.S. law.
Yeah.
Trump claimed that Khalil was taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement under his executive order. Without providing evidence, he alleged that others participating in similar campus protests are also paid agitators. Again, completely false. Khalil was raised in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria. He played a key role as a negotiator between Columbia University officials and demonstrators during last year's Gaza Solidarity encampment. Khalil was arrested on Saturday night at his university-owned apartment located near Columbia's main campus in New York. ICE agents reportedly entered the building and detained him. Emails revealed that the day before his arrest, Khalil contacted Columbia's interim president, Katrina Armstrong, requesting protection. In his email, he described being the target of a dehumanizing doxing campaign led by people connected to the university. I haven't been able to sleep, fearing that I or a dangerous individual might come into my home, he wrote on the 7th of March. He urged the university to provide legal assistance and protection. In a letter from Monday, Armstrong denied allegations that Columbia's leadership had requested ISIS presence on or near the campus. Initially, it was reported that Khalil was being held at an immigration center in New Jersey. However, his pregnant wife later indicated that she could not locate him. She literally couldn't find him. By Monday morning, records suggested he'd been transferred to this LaSalle detention facility in Louisiana. Civil rights organizations, free speech advocates, and some New York City officials condemned Khalil's arrest, describing it as a violation of the First Amendment and an alarming misuse of immigration enforcement. A federal judge in Manhattan scheduled a hearing on Wednesday to review Khalil's legal challenge against his detention. Trump's decision to have immigration authorities arrest a pro-Palestinian activist for alleged support of Hamas is an attack on free speech. That's not my opinion, that is the view of the American Civil Liberties Union. unprecedented, illegal, un-American, said Ben Wisner, director of the American Civil Liberties Union's Speech, Privacy and Technology Project. The federal government is claiming the authority to deport people with deep ties to the US and revoke their green cards for advocating positions that the government opposes. To be clear, the First Amendment protects everyone in the US. The government's actions are obviously intended to intimidate and chill speech on one side of a public debate. Columbia issued a revised protocol for how students and school staff should deal with federal immigration agents seeking to enter private school property, saying they could enter without a judicial arrest warrant in exigent circumstances, which it did not specify. By allowing ICE on campus, Columbia is surrendering to the Trump administration's assault on universities across the country and sacrificing international students to protect its finances, the Student Workers of Columbia said in a statement. The move to arrest and detain Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil comes after the Trump administration announced last week that it would revoke about $400 million in federal grants and contracts from Columbia University. The Trump regime alleges that the university has not done enough to stop anti-Semitism on campus. Universities must comply with all federal anti-discrimination laws if they're going to receive federal funding. For too long, Columbia has abandoned that obligation to Jewish students studying on its campus, the Education Secretary Linda McMahon said in a statement on Friday. Mahmoud Khalil's arrest is the first publicly known deportation effort under Trump's promised crackdown on students who joined protests against the war in Gaza and swept college campuses. The Trump regime falsely claimed that participants forfeited their rights to remain in the country by supporting Hamas. But the support is simply for the Palestinian people. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on the Weekend Show with Midas Touch.
Order all your health needs with DoorDash.
This world. Are you ready to be part of something bigger? The Trump regime folds to Canada. Once again, it's like Groundhog's Day, the same day over and over. Trump wakes up in the morning, he threatens Canada with tariffs and annexation. Canada goes elbows up over the boards. They stand up to Donald Trump. They say, we're going to retaliate. The markets start to crash. Donald Trump panics. And then Donald Trump reverses course. Now, yesterday, Donald Trump sent out his trade advisor, Peter Navarro, fresh from his recent prison sentence for contempt of Congress, and he goes, whoa, Canada, can you tone down this rhetoric? You're being a little mean to us, because they're being mean to us. Here, play this clip.
Well, I would just ask my friends in Canada to let's tamp down the rhetoric. I understand politics, it's a political season here.
Seriously? And by the way, this is what Navarro and the Trump regime was doing.
Bully poked too hard. And now the one that he's bullying standing up and biting back. Trump don't like it. Not a big surprise. Bullies don't like somebody who will fight back. It's kind of common. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of bully stock shit. Whenever I start something online, I'm hoping these people actually have the stuff to shut me up. Honestly. So I'd like to be proved wrong. I don't like being right so often. It sucks. Trust me. If you can ask nobody else, take it from me. Being right most of the time fucking sucks.
All day, making appearances like this. All right, everybody. Just got to know how Canada was getting a
You're getting a little carried away there with your rhetoric. Here, watch this.
But frankly, Premier, he's been. I mean, look, just tamp it down, please, over there. Okay, he's throwing down the hockey gloves. Stop that rhetoric, and let's just look at what we're trying.
Yeah, they threw their hockey gloves off in response to us coming at them with a chainsaw. Well, let's not be extra aggressive to Canada and shit. Canadians are good people. You don't deserve it. Canadians have been there for us. They have been our fucking battle buddy in how many wars? And now you want to fuck your battle buddy? Oh, fuck you. You don't fuck your battle buddy. Straight up, you don't fucking fuck your battle buddy. Your battle buddy's your fucking lifeline, you idiot.
Love Canada, but look, there's some big issues there, and we're not going to tolerate anything but them stopping killing Americans and doing what's right with respect to things like stealing a woman, which they've been dumping in our country, and that's stopping.
Carrying away with your rhetoric? You know, there's this meme that I think is so appropriate right now, right here, where it's like the U.S. shoots Canada, and then the U.S. goes, how could Canada do this to us? Look at what Donald Trump posted earlier yesterday. He said the only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state. And then Donald Trump said there won't need to be tariffs if we annex you. And then Trump said the artificial line of separation drawn many years ago will finally disappear, and we will have the safest and most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, Canada, continued to play, but now representing a great and powerful state within the greatest nation the world has ever seen. I think we should stop using the language that this is merely a trade war. When Donald Trump makes posts like this, threatening conquest and annexation, we're actually talking about declarations of real war.
Yeah.
And so when the Trump regime declares war on Canada, and Canada goes elbows over the boards, and punches back, and applies retaliatory tariffs, and boycotts all U.S. tourism, and takes American booze off the shelves, the Trump regime then sends Peter DeMar.
Yes. Those words are exactly that. Those words are a declaration of war. Apparently that's something that actually has to be said. Which is really rather sad. Because it shouldn't have to be said in a layman's terms. When someone says, I'm going to annex your country, it's not basically, that's saying, it's coming forth and saying, I'm going to take your country by force. That's what that word means. So yeah, Trump has threatened war already. And if you can't see it, you're not watching. Not paying attention, or don't fucking know what you're looking at. And at that point, you ain't got no place to tell nobody else what they are quote unquote not seeing. That's just basic.
So sorry, I'm so good. Could you tone it down? You're being mean to us. Do you know how weak and pathetic that makes the Trump regime then look? It's a cycle of taunts, bullying, and then weakness repeated over and over again. Let me just share this with you. Talking about my recent interview with Canadian Member of Parliament Charlie Angus. He directed this message at Donald Trump.
YouTube. Steph Springs
before
Nursery.
Donald
Hi,
Trump
Justin.
sent Peter Navarro.
Morning, Steps. Oh, wait. It could be afternoon for you. Yep. Oh, afternoon. Oh, it's almost afternoon for me. Oh. Fucking Donald Trump. I really wish we didn't have him in place. Someone who at least knew the words he was using and knew the gravity of them. Canada's about done with Donald Trump shit. And Donald Trump has once again said, I'm going to annex you. It's like, Donald Trump, dude, stop threatening to start war. Or, sorry, let me rephrase that. Stop starting a war. Because that's exactly what that word means. You are declaring war. Whether you realize it or not. Whether my countrymen realize it or not, that's exactly what that word means. It's not a takeover of government in a nice way. No, it's a fucking invasion. That's what annexed means. It means to invade. To take over by force. So, keep in mind, yeah, Donald Trump has been trying to start war. Even if he doesn't realize it.
Or to back down, here, play this clip.
After 60-some days of your chaos, you ripped up your European treaties, you sold out the people of Ukraine, you acted in a disgraceful manner towards our allies, you're running a chainsaw through American democracy. But you made it clear that Canada is your number one enemy, your next-door neighbors. So here's the thing. You're threatening us with tariffs, you're going to bring them in, you're going to bring us to our knees, then you start panicking because we don't back down. And now you're trying to hem and haw and change, what you said just a couple of days ago. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Until you bring all the tariffs off, until you stop harassing us at our border, the punishment is going to keep coming from Canada because we realize right now Canada has become the number one line of resistance to you and your regime. So since you've backtracked, we've up.
Cash by answering surveys.
Bastard.
Are you tired of those survey rewards?
Since you've backtracked, we've upped the ante.
Now, here's Charlie Angus talking about the boycott, and he says that the statistics.
Yeah, why don't you all quit poking Canada? For real. Why don't y'all poke Canada? Do it. Stop poking Canada. And they're still being nice. They are trying to be nice for the sake of the American people. You guys don't want it. As the saying goes, that ain't the one you want. Trying to fucking pick on our little brother country as if they didn't grow up with us and didn't learn how to fucking kick our ass because we were fucking giving them shit all the time. Man.
DC, it's about a 40 to 50% decline in certain flights to the U.S. and tourism and consumption, which is going to cost the U.S. billions and billions of dollars. Watch Charlie Angus.
Really interesting statistic I saw was that flights to the U.S. in February were down 40%. Now, they talked in January about a 10% drop causing, 15,000 jobs right off the top. A 40% drop is extraordinary. And then you add to that the fact that February is a really, really cold month in Canada. People love going south to the U.S.
Now, if you want to know why there's less air traffic, because unlike a lot of Americans, when foreign countries see that air travel in your country is highly dangerous, they're not gonna do it! When they see you have fucking how many plane accidents in a month's time? They ain't gonna fucking fly in here. They're not stupid. They are not stupid. Not to mention the way America's government's been treating these other countries. Hell no, they're not going to want to come here. As a matter of fact, a lot of the country leaders are going to be like, hey, if you're going to go there, be careful. We can't guarantee your safety. For fucking real. Yeah. There's a reason for the shit. No, it's not Biden. It's not Democrats. It's the Coppertone Cobblehead. And his pet narcissist who has social issues, supposedly. Still kind of with the rest of the community on this one. I don't think so. Every single one of us was against that shit.
And they're not. They're going either to Mexico or they're staying home to do tours in the summer through Canada. So this is having a huge effect, and this is the power of the boycott. The boycott will start putting pressure on the governors. It'll put pressure on red state and blue state legislators to start standing up and saying, this is an insane thing. Why would the United States consider its number one enemy in the world to be not China, not North Korea, not Vladimir Putin, but their next door neighbors in Canada with an integrated market, which is the most successful
their little brother
marketing arrangement in the world today. Why would they blow that up?
Their
That's
little
something
fucking
Donald
brother.
Trump is going to have to explain to the American people.
Then you have the
I mean, for real. Canada is America's little brother. And just like a little brother, he's a little bit different. Great Mama Land UK never told us who Daddy was. That's a joke. But seriously, Canada has been our little brother. We've been there for each other for decades. Going after Canada, declaring war on Canada, this shit's not acceptable. Canada's done nothing but help us. Canada's not bringing over a bunch of fentanyl. For an entire year, all that came over Canada was 40 pounds. That's it. That's nothing in comparison. And guess what? That could very easily be the same cartel going out and around and coming down. And that wouldn't be Canada's fault. If you guys don't see it yet, it's a fucking distraction. But this distraction is going to end up being a war. And how it's fought really comes up to us. We, the people, could actually side with Canada and fix this shit. I could almost guarantee that if those against Trump and his regime were to speak to Canada, we could have ourselves a pretty good fucking force that we wouldn't have to worry too much. Trump riled up Canada. Who's to say we can't release the pin? Canada knows who the target is. Canada knows who's hurting them. Right now, they can't do shit. As far as coming down and doing something. Just to be clear. This is a tactic that would not work until actual, I hate to say it, war broke out. More than likely. Then it would all depend on how well we could talk Canada into going, hey, we gotta do something. It's possible, but it won't be easy. You're talking needing to have at least a backing of 75% of the country. or it might be able to be considered safe for Canada to do something. I don't know if Canada will be stuck on safe or not at this point. That's just it. I'm not trying to risk a friend. Canada's not just a friend. Canada's family. And I don't care how many of you backwards knuckle draggers out there think this is how you treat family. The fuck it is, motherfucker. If you think the way we're treating Canada right now is how you treat family, you don't know what family is. You haven't been able to experience it. I don't blame you for it. But it doesn't mean that you should stick with what you were shown and that what you've been told as family doesn't exist. It just means you haven't found it. You close yourself off like that to the world, you make yourself colder and weaker. Don't do that. Find your family. Find the people that'll be there for you. They're not going to be blood most of the time. They're going to be people that care about you, respect you, for you. Now, they ain't going to let you speak no bullshit. They're going to call you out. But it's not because they dislike you. It's not because they got a problem with you. It's because they care about you. And those people, everybody needs to find those people. Those people make the world a difference. The whole having a good life starts with small things. That's one of the big ones. You get that one addressed, and those small moments come up a lot more. And they make your life that much better. And they say you got two families. Like, no, you got three. You've got the one you make, the one you were born into, and the one you choose. The one you make is obviously a relationship with an intimate partner, someone you trust deeply. The one you pick, that's your group of friends. Group of friends that you trust. The ones that will call you. The ones that might as well be your brothers or sisters. Or in my case, mom and dad. They don't call you out because they dislike you. They call you out because they care and they don't want to see bad for you. And that's something that may have been forgotten over time. For a lot of people. I don't know. I definitely see a lot less of it.
Mayor of Ontario, Doug Ford, he went on a number of shows in America, and here's what he had to say. Here, play this clip.
On the electricity. Stay tuned.
So what does that look like? What are the potential responses?
Well, we'll see. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession. which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming both countries right now.
All right, let's be real. How many subscriptions are you actually using? If you're anything like me, you sign up for a free trial, forget about it, and boom, you're paying
Technically,
for
I
something you
have one
haven't used
subscription
in
that I
months. That's exactly what
have
happened
to
to me.
get
When I got
my
Rocket
PayPal.
Money, I found a bunch of subscriptions I did not even remember signing up for. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. And trust me, seeing all my subscriptions in one place was an eye-opener. They even alert you when prices go up and can negotiate bills on your behalf, so you don't have to waste time on hold with customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Just go to rocketmoney.com/MidasTouch today. It's rocketmoney.com/MidasTouch. Again, rocketmoney.com/MidasTouch. Go to rocketmoney.com/MidasTouch. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions today.
One of the things that Premier Ford said too is that he was going to apply his own tariffs on energy, which was above and beyond other retaliatory tariffs, above and beyond the boycott, and then that freaked out the Trump regime. And so the Trump regime then ended up negotiating against themselves and then acting like they got some deal or concessions when the Trump regime literally threatened annexation and then once again pulled back their threats. I mean, they do this every single day now, it seems. You wake up, tariffs, no tariffs, tariffs, no tariffs. Ooh, did Donald Trump actually post that? Oh, he did. Are they actually going to sign the tariffs? Oh, they're not going to sign it. What's actually going on here? Let me show you the new leader of the Liberal Party, the interim, soon-to-be interim Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Here was his very pointed message to the Trump regime. Let's play this clip.
Until I tried it myself, but if you download the AliExpress app through this video, you can pick any 3 items that you want for a total of 99 cents, and shipping is completely free. So I decided to get these wireless earbuds, some mics for my gaming room, as well as custom grips for my controller. And as you can see, this is legit, only a total of 99 cents and free shipping.
America is not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form. We didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. The Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will. So what does Donald Trump continue to do throughout the day? It's just lots of whining. Social media whining. It's like trolling on a social media platform and X. It's just weird. They go, why would our country allow another country to supply us with electricity, even for a small area? Who made these decisions and why? And can you imagine Canada stooping so low as to use electricity that so affects the life of innocent people as a bargaining chip and a threat? I don't know. Maybe you threaten their existence. Maybe you threaten their sovereignty. Maybe when you do something, sometimes people react. You know, the rest of the world are not like these spineless Pyongyang MAGA Republicans who dutifully clap at dear leader. Most of the world looks at you like the pathetic, weak moron that you actually are, who keeps tanking the markets. But I guess when you tank the markets, that's a great opportunity for your band of grifters, like MAGA Republican former Congress member Matt Gaetz, who said, "We told you there would be market volatility. You can protect your savings and retirement. I trust that Golden Press Gold to manage my gold portfolio and growing my wealth." So you've got Matt Gaetz selling products over a market crash. Who else would do that? Oh, Donald Trump and Elon Musk selling Teslas, doing product placement ads outside of the White House as they are unleashing these disorganized and
pathetic and dangerous trade wars that are backfiring in their face as they're tanking the markets. They're selling Teslas. And Donald Trump's like, oh, I don't know how to drive. I don't know how to drive. And then meanwhile, they're having their regime propaganda like Jesse.
What? I might have to look that up. That's for real. Donald Trump is another drive. I know how to drive, I just can't. That's kind of pathetic. I'm not gonna lie.
Waters act all tough to kind of cover it up and be like, okay, can you believe that Canada tried to shut off our electricity? It's like they want us to invade them. Yeah, we're going to invade them. Here, play this clip. Before we get to Elon, can you believe Canada tried to shut off our electricity? I mean, it's almost like they want us to invade. I don't think that y'all are building the case for Canada to be nicer to you when you talk like that. Speak in language of invasion through American state regime media. It is so utterly, utterly pathetic. One of the things that I enjoy watching as well, though, is Caroline.
Well, you gotta hear it from the horse party's mouth. Now you can hear it. It's not just me.
Levitt learned what a tariff is in real time, but then she was like, you don't know what a tariff is. A tariff is a tax cut. The Americans are getting their tariff tax cuts. That's what we promised, like no tax on Social Security tariffs. What? What are you even talking about? First off, you're not doing no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, and no tax on overtime. And tariffs are quite literally a tax on American consumers. They're not a tax cut. Here, play this clip.
You're welcome. Well, if we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. Now, I'm curious, he's not why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries
No,
that,
it's
again,
not.
have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people.
No, it's not.
The president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
No. I'm sorry, no. As a matter of fact, I have to worry about how bad it's going to get because it's going to make a difference whether or not I eat. Or can afford my medication. Or, yeah, don't get me fucking started about the whole tariffs. It's not meant to hurt other countries. People need to get this through their fucking heads. Other countries are not going to pay the tariffs. That's beyond stupid to think that. I'm sorry if that is offensive to you, but you quite literally have it fucked up. A tariff is not our friend. Never has been and never will be. A tariff was originally a sacrifice that we as a country made to try to make our country a little bit better in one form or another where the market was unbalanced. It was a tool for helping to balance the world market. And doesn't work like this. One, I don't think we've had tariffs quite this high before. The highest was 11% before, if I'm remembering correctly. Could be wrong, other than during war times. During war times, there were tariffs lower on warring nations. But no, when a tariff is put in place, it is a double-edged blade. It might as well be a BB gun with a fucking knife at the butt. And you gotta use the fucking butt. One, there's too much kick. Two, can't pull the trigger if that knife is not touching skin and getting electrical current. But you still gotta pull that trigger, supposedly. At least some of y'all think so. It's not smart. Not smart at all. Tariffs hurt us more than they do the other country right now. 100%. We are not in a strong enough place as a people, monetarily speaking, to be able to withstand these tariffs. If you think I'm lying, just sit back and watch.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics, the decisions that this president has made.
Well, I'm sorry you're insulted because you don't know your shit. This again, people like this one are why I hate the fake it till you make it bullshit. Because you get a lot of people that don't fucking know their shit and never learn it. I do not find that to be applicable in a job scenario. You want to do that for other things? Other things, that's for the most part okay. But to claim that you have all this expertise and then just be talking out your ass in something as important as an economy, get the hell out of here. Go fake yourself in Russia. That's just too fucking far. And anybody who wants to get after me for being like that about it, you can't. Be my guest. I'll even leave space for you to do so. But otherwise, things like a job, nah. You want to fake some self-confidence to build your self-confidence up? Fucking go for it. Do it. I support that fully. But shit like the economy, economists shit, politics, don't fake that shit till you make it. you're going to be missing a lot of information that is going to screw you and everyone else over. Don't be that person. For real. Do not be that person. My understanding of economics is not full, but I know better than that shit. I pay attention to these fucking bullshit, obviously. I'm here doing this every day. And me doing this gives me a better clue than her? And she's up there? That's not copacetic shit. It ain't got nothing to do with the fact she's female. I don't give a fuck. There's probably some really good female economists out there. But that's not one of them. Let's be real. Like, I get we talking about fake it till you make it, but let's be real.
Now we're giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary.
Forward that they go back to their line, though, that while they're folding to Canada, while they are sending Navarro out and showing utter weakness, she goes back to, saying, look, we want Canada to be our 51st state. Everybody knows that.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Elon Musk. Are these two people that we want running the country?
No.
We want Canada to be our 51st state. Everybody knows that.
On Canada, after all of these threats to increase tariffs or turn off electricity, I wonder, does this administration still consider Canada to be a close ally of the United States?
Well, I think Canada is a neighbor. They are a partner. They have always been an ally.
They're our younger brother.
But as the president also laid out in his Truth Social post today, he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. Actually,
no. No, they would not. As an American, I can say, no, they would not. Canadians themselves look and go, yeah, fuck you, hell no. You guys still got to worry about your fucking health insurance. We feel like shit. We go into the doctor. We see the doctor the same fucking day and don't pay a goddamn thing. Meanwhile, y'all are still back there using that fucking insurance company bullshit and getting scammed like crazy. That's just one way. The other, Canada has more social safety nets, social safety programs. No, I think it's funny. Y'all are trying to take Canada up like you think they're some kind of conservative haven when compared to America, Canada's hanging out left. Most of the rest of the world is, because reality has a left-leaning bias. Sorry.
Looked into some of the research about the cost of living in Canada, and the cost of living is much higher than it is here in the United States of America. The average cost of a home in Canada is much higher. In Quebec, the highest tax rate for an income of $150,000 or more is 53.3%, more than half of Canadians' incomes they are being taxed on. So,
okay, yes, Canadians have higher taxes. They make more as well. They have an actual livable minimum wage. Yes, you heard me right. livable minimum wage. So yeah, in the end, things are a little bit more expensive. But you have the money you need because it's balanced. Yeah, there's regulations. Guess what? That's how you balance a fucking system. Y'all want to bitch about bureaucracy. Guess what? That's what makes it work. Sorry. That's what makes it work. Are there better ways to go about it? Yes. Tearing it all down and changing it to rubble is not it. That's not how you take care of that problem. That's how you create a lot bigger problems.
The president has made it clear that he believes Canadians would be better served economically, militarily, if they were to become the 51st state of the United States of America. Reagan.
I guess I should mention as well, finally, that in that Trump social media post, he says that the borders are artificial. Like, isn't he like Mr. Border? And now he goes, when it comes to Canada, those borders are artificial. It's just a line. People drew it with a ruler. Why would they draw such an artificial line with a ruler? First off, that's exactly the opposite of what Trump said, but who cares when it comes to Donald Trump about consistency? But it's the language of Putin. He's using verbatim the language of Putin. That's just a border, artificial border. And Canada has taken note. Europe has taken note. The world has taken note. And could you imagine, though, if Putin sent somebody out and go, oh, they're being mean to us, they're being mean to us. Are we even watching? Are we even watching? Please hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. The truth is more important than ever. Together.
The bill is passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is now on the table. Pursuant to clause 8.
So that's the moment the MAGA Republican members of Congress were cheering that they passed their CR, their continuing resolution. That reminds me of something. Where have I seen clapping like that before, where people look terrified by clapping at the same time? Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that before. It looks like that's what these MAGA Republicans have become these days. It looks a little Kim Jong-unish, and I guess there's a reason why Donald Trump looks up to Kim Jong-un. When you look at this continuing resolution, there are about 22 different instances at least, although I want to see if there may be even more than that, in this bill where the funding for certain programs is set at $0. And if you look at the types of things that are being cut, go back to that last graphic as well there, Salty. I mean, you're looking at things like EPA, healthcare, education, things that are going to also harm red states. So these MAGA Republicans are quite literally cheering on the fact that they're harming their own constituents. By the way, these are the same MAGA Republican Congress members who for years have now been saying, we will never pass a continuing resolution again. The days of CRs are over. And if there is a CR, it's going to be clean CRs. This was none of that. But then they tried to spin it, I think, in Pyongyang fashion. This is MAGA Republican Congress member Tom Emmer just saying how great things are. Play this clip.
Last week we celebrated President Trump's countless victories for the American people during his joint address to Congress. This week, Congress must pass a continuing resolution so the American people can continue to enjoy win after win after win. This is the way forward.
Let's be real. There's not been but maybe 1 or 2 wins since he's been in office. Special forces down to Mexico to help train them, that is a win. If that is legit of Trump's doing, that is a win, and I will not argue it or fight it. That is 100% a win if that's legit. If that's not the first time, if this is new, that's a win. Because Mexico has really needed the help of the cartels. Period. They've been asking for fucking years. They asked Trump during his first term, and he said, fuck off. Some of the other ones, I can't say I know them at the moment. There's bound to be one or two. But Donald Trump and this regime is a net negative. The little wins that have come out of this are not worth all of this. It never has been worth all of this. That's why it's not been done. It's not been worth dismantling our entire fucking country on its basis to get these problems fixed. Do they need to be fixed? Fuck yes. Is this the way to go about it? Hell the fucking no. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Is this the best way to go about it? Is it even close? No. Not even fucking close. I get if you don't like politics. I get if you don't want to hear all the fucking bickering back and forth. But to not sit here and have some idea of what's actually going on, you're acting really fucking stupid. And yeah, you heard me right. I said you're acting, not you are. It used to be a time that you didn't have to say, you're acting. People understood that when you were being called a dumbass, it was saying you were being a dumbass. Not that you are a dumbass. There was a time. But apparently we need to actually put that in again. And people need to realize that it's not an insult. If you're acting stupid, you're acting stupid. You're not going to know until somebody fucking says something. If you're missing the point, you're missing the point. You're not going to know until somebody tells you. Until somebody can explain what the point is, you don't get it. And sometimes, just hearing the point isn't enough. Sometimes it needs to be broken down a bit more for somebody. And it's seeming that break it down more has to be happening a lot more now. Zero funding to education. Zero funding to healthcare. Sorry, are you kidding me? Congratulations, America. Your livestock, officially. And the ones that had the ranch now don't give a fuck. They're not calling the vet. They'll just put you down.
But unfortunately, Democrats in Congress would rather throw temper tantrums fueled by their hatred for President Trump than keep the government open and working for all Americans.
Last time I checked, y'all are the ones who control the House and the Senate and the executive branch. Y'all are the ones who are throwing the temper tantrums. This is MAGA Republican Congress member Steve Scalise. Just take a look at this.
Last week, all Americans who watched the State of the Union saw a very triumphant President Trump who's returned to the White
House. Homie, you need to get your eyes checked. My glasses are 10 years old, and I still see better than that shit. No, that was not a triumphant Donald Trump. That was a snarky, I'm better than all of you, and going to take what I want, fuck y'all, Donald Trump. And I would like y'all to actually realize that that's what you were seeing. Because that very much was his address attitude. The body language up there the entire time was that of a bully. Somebody who thinks they're literally better than you. And they're not. As a matter of fact, they're a lot less. Trump's not a strong man. He's fucking pathetically weak. I mean, fucking pathetic. He's a fake strongman. If you ain't seen that, then you don't understand why there are people that don't like the gun from the Old West. The gun can make a weak man seem strong. At the same time, that weak man can commit a crime. It's a man that's weak in the mind that is the most vulnerable. And that is Donald Trump. That man is nowhere near strong. And I apologize to anyone who thinks he is, because yeah, no. My ass can see through it. Dude is like fucking cellophane. And I'm not just going off my fucking words. I listen to the fucking psychologists who say the same goddamn thing. Heads of their fucking field. Actual measured science. I don't know about you. I'm not one to argue with reality. Arguing with science is quite literally arguing with the way in which we discover the world around us and our reality. So, I might suggest you consider that next time. You want to sit there and deny or doubt what actual science has to say.
Us with even more energy, more vigor, and more focus to work for the American people than ever before. Laying out in just 6 short weeks how much he's already done to fulfill the promises.
What was Donald Trump doing today while the markets were crashing? Oh yeah, he was out there with Elon Musk selling Teslas, doing product placement while they're your propaganda network, as well as Sean Hannity talking about buying Teslas. It must be nice, all these rich people buying Teslas all over the place and helping out their billionaire friends. Let's bring in Democratic Congressmember Joe DeBoost. Congress member, you sit on the Rules Committee, you're on the subcommittee of Budget and Legislation, so you know this CR. What are they cheering for right there? Can you put this into context?
It's a great question. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me on. Look, first and foremost, I got to react to the clips that you just showed, because it is the height of absurdity for some of those Republican members. Literally, as the stock market is crashing, 401ks are vanishing for countless Americans across the country. Prices are going up across the board, and yet you have these Republican members, sycophants, praising the administration that is pursuing the reckless policies causing the harm that their constituents are experiencing. It is nonsensical. And, of course, as you mentioned, the logical extension of this was today's vote on the CR, which they apparently were very proud of. This is a bill that would cut funding for core programs that countless Americans rely upon: nutrition assistance, health care benefits, veterans benefits under the PACT Act for the next fiscal year, all on the chopping block under this partisan Republican spending bill that they pushed through the House earlier today. There's nothing to applaud about, but, again, as we prologue, it's clear that this is the course that they will maintain, and the fact that, as you said, you can see the sort of corruption on full display over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue today, it just is astounding, I think, to the average American who's struggling right now to make ends meet, to see a Republican majority in Washington, in the House and the Senate, and in the White House that clearly cares nothing about ultimately improving their quality of life. It's shameful.
I want you on the Rules Committee, and it's an interesting committee because the members of Congress who are putting forward the legislation appear kind of as witnesses, so you're actually kind of examining or questioning your Republican colleagues. I want to talk about that because, I'm sure you speak to these people not in that setting where they know that, like, our people at the Midas Touch Network are clipping all that stuff and getting it all up. Like, after they're done with that theater, do they admit kind of privately that, like, they know that this is big trouble, or are they fully Pyongyang, North Korea, clap mode, that this is their shtick, this is their jam?
Look, it's instructive in terms of where we are as a country. I think in the past, might have a member or two that would approach me afterwards that understood that we had caught them, in a bit of a trap, if you will, a rhetorical trap, right? They sort of exposing the hypocrisy of their views in front of the Rules Committee, but would understand that perhaps that might be something that they need to modulate in the future. These days, that's not the case. Generally speaking, as I said, most of the Republican caucus now are sycophants for President Trump. There is nothing that he cannot do in their eyes, nothing that they won't bless and approve of and salute. And it's unfortunate. Again, this is not the way in which Article 1 branch of government, the United States Congress, is supposed to function. And yet, here's where we are. We find ourselves. So, yeah, with respect to the Rules Committee, as you mentioned, it's a unique committee in the Congress. It's the only committee in the Congress that, has no time limit in terms of the questions that are posed by members or the answers that are provided. And then secondly, as you said, it's an opportunity to be able to question your own colleagues. And in my view, when you're coming in front of the Rules Committee and you're making the case to the American people for a policy that you're pursuing, then you ought to be, artfully and honestly questioned about your own views and how they comport with the particular position you're taking. And often, as is the case, a lot of these members don't like, ultimately being, told, or rather having it revealed to them, the position they had taken on a particular issue previously that just lays bare the hypocrisy, which is all too common these days in Washington.
You represent a district in Colorado. I would say, on the whole, Colorado as a state is bluer, but there are certainly lots of red dots within Colorado as well, and purplish areas in Colorado as well. What are you hearing from constituents, not just Democrats, but like Are you hearing from independents and Republicans, and are you hearing across the board in Colorado that there's kind of a growing frustration, would be putting it, I think, gently, to what Elon Musk and Trump is doing? Do you feel this is still kind of, people are in their partisan camps? What are you seeing in your state?
My answer to the first part of your question is unquestionably yes. I think people are frustrated, and we hear from folks across the political spectrum about their frustration and displeasure with the way in which the Trump administration is conducting itself. I mean, look, I represent, you mentioned this district, of course, in my view, the best district in the United States of America, but it's a large geographical district. It's larger than 9 states, central and northern and western Colorado, right? Rural communities, urban communities, suburban communities, you name it. And as I go across my district doing town halls, because as House Democrats, we do town halls. We actually enjoy town halls and visiting with constituents and listening to them and their concerns. I hear from folks who are deeply troubled by the mass purge of federal employees, right, at the Forest Service. These are people doing wildfire mitigation work, preventing the next mega fire in the Rocky Mountain West. I'm concerned about the land management agencies, people working in the federal labs, like this, who are now being unceremoniously fired and purged from the federal workforce. They are concerned about the rising cost of living in an administration that clearly has no intention of doing anything about it, and instead is only pursuing policies that will exacerbate the problem. Right? You're an average family looking at your 401k and realizing that in the last 6 weeks, the Trump administration has erased all gains in the last year. I mean, and clearly a recession potentially looming on the horizon. So yeah, folks are pissed off. Just to be candid, as I talk to people in my district, again across the political spectrum, it's not to suggest that people don't want to see government reform. I think folks are hungry for reform. They're hungry to see fraud-based abuse rooted out of the government, but they don't want to see a chainsaw, a literal chainsaw, to the core functions of the federal government that serve Coloradans each and every day. They did not sign up.
Go.
And I just don't think anybody signed up for that.
Come on, bro.
Tariffs. No tariffs. Tariffs are great. Tariffs are the worst. What are we going to do? Am I going to invade Greenland today? Am I going to invade Canada today? 51st State Day? Is today a Panama Canal Conquest Day? What are we talking? We're talking about fentanyl in Mexico today? Where are we going with this? Is he going to send a Shalom Hamas text? Is he going to post images of himself in Trump Gaza City? With bearded people with cleavage. So what's the? It's not. I always say we can't normalize this behavior. And then there's like a gaslighting element to it as well. Like he'll have Peter Navarro, who, by the way, served jail time for his conduct related to
contempt of Congress.
Contempt of Congress. He's out there right now asking Canada, can you please just tamp down the rhetoric. Canada, he goes tamp down the rhetoric. Watch this.
But frankly, Premier, he's been, look, just tamp it down, please, over there, okay? He's throwing down the hockey gloves. Yeah, stop that rhetoric. And let's just look at what we're trying to do. We love Canada, but look, there's some big issues there, and we're not going to tolerate anything but them stopping killing Americans and doing what's right with respect to things like stealing a woman.
Canada's not killing Americans.
It's just not normal.
Yeah, you're precisely correct. I don't know that I can say it better than you just did. Look, it's absurd, ludicrous. It's just sort of arsonists that are now complaining about the fire that they have created. And unfortunately, this is the most tragic part of all, is that there will be mass collateral damage to the absurdities of the policies that they are pursuing. And so, I think about the average working family in my district that's struggling to be able to buy a new car because car prices are soaring through the roof.
Car? How about a place to live?
Remarkably high. And what are they left? The car infomercial that the President of the United States conducted earlier today on the White House lawn. That is their policy prescription, right? Is to engage in these reckless economic policies, the tariffs and the rest, unnecessary trade wars.
Leave them alone.
Really offer nothing of actual consequence to the American people who are really struggling. And from my perspective, that's the most confounding part of all. House Democrats are going to remain focused. As Leader Jeffries often says, keeping the main thing, which is quality of life, cost of living, addressing core challenges that the American people face that Republicans refuse to address, and as I said, if anything, are exacerbating.
There you have it. I'd love to. This is your first time on the Midas Touch Network. We got to have you. Because as a former litigator, I love your style, I love your examinations. I always point that out. So it's great to finally have you out there with me. The feeling's mutual. Come on, I've been telling everybody. That's right. We're going to go play go. We're going to send in $20 balls right now. Stopping my keyboard, please. Come on.
There seems to be a disconnect among a couple of major political issues that the media is glossing over and not holding Trump to account on. Number one, his tariffs plan makes no economic sense. And number two, that Doge is a scam.
We started looking closely at USAID because they were completely violating the president's executive orders to suspend foreign aid, what's called foreign aid, but in our view is a lot of corruption.
Let's start with the first one, tariffs. 25% on Mexico and Canada, our closest trading partners and military allies, and then an assortment of tariffs on the rest of our trading partners around the world, of a percentage usually made up by Trump in a random moment. No data, no economists, no projections, just Trump's instinct. We all know his instinct for business is world famous. Firstly, tariffs are Trump's only method for bringing revenue into the Treasury. He literally doesn't have another plan. And the reason that he's making such a big deal about it is because he has to give the impression that it is going to work so that he can reduce corporation tax for the wealthiest individuals and businesses, which is where the majority of tax revenue should come from. So by letting his wealthy friends off the hook to the tune of trillions of dollars in tax receipts, he needs to come up with a marketing plan to offset that insane amount of corruption. He must know that tariffs are paid for by consumers and importers rather than the exporters. It's not rocket science. But by convincing himself and everyone else that Mexico is paying for it or Canada is paying for it, takes the heat off the fact that he is once again rinsing working people and benefiting only the very wealthy. Arguably, he hates working people. He hates his base. He wouldn't be seen dead with these people. He prefers Jeffrey Epstein, that kind of ilk. Whenever MAGA supporters try to get close to him, he literally runs the other way. So, like a classic robber baron, Trump is executing this bait and switch designed to throw people off the scent of his real plan, which is to destroy the US economy. But by then, it'll be too late to save the people when everything crashes. Wealthiest will be in a position to buy back stocks and commodities at a much lower rate, and so the cycle of enriching themselves begins again. Not a single legitimate economist can explain how other countries will be paying the tariffs. Trump can't explain it. He always just changes the subject and says it'll be fine, we're going to be so rich. He's actually talking about himself.
Yeah.
He says we, he means me. The tariffs during his last presidency brought in very little revenue. The tech billionaires don't actually believe in federal taxation. So the plan, long term, is to abolish it completely, starting with these huge tax cuts for the wealthy, not for the working poor. These tariffs effectively act as taxes on US imports, with much of the cost passed on to American consumers in the form of higher prices. And it's important to note that while tariff revenues did increase marginally during Trump's first presidency, they remained a relatively small fraction of overall federal revenue and had limited impact on reducing national debt.
Now, I want to go on record here. The reason why the tax is not export, as if you were to actually want to do what you say he wants to do, you would do, because then it actually is on the person that's trying to get the product. You would have the tax on the export, not the import. you would tax export of American goods. So that way these other countries are feeling the pain from that. Or they're wanting to work with you more to get that taxation down. Because, really, Loki? He's taking the shit. Don't you lay down. You stand. I don't want you squishing it. Considering you decided to be an asshole and not say anything to me. Easy, easy. Stop. Stop. Lay down right there. Don't move. You're an asshole. You had all morning, literally all morning, to tell me this isn't okay. You didn't say a goddamn thing, dude. Loki being a bad boy. This is bad. It's not okay, dude. I've been here all morning. No, sit. Not okay. Every chance. Bad Loki. Bad. Not okay. That's fucked up, dude. That's fucked up. I'm right there. I can see you. And you don't even care to say something. Bad Loki. Bad Loki. Fucking butthead. Damn it, dude. You freaking oh.
Additionally, studies have shown that tariffs led to increased consumer prices and had adverse effects on sectors of the US economy.
That's where I was at. Yeah. You put the tax on exportation, not importation. This is something you learn in high school. For fucking real. Now, don't get me wrong, I know not everybody went to high school, but what the fuck? You should at least have some kind of clue what your thinking it's going to happen and know actually what it's going to do. So I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. See, had it been a taxation on export, what Trump is saying would happen very well could happen. But it's a tax on import, which has the opposite effect. It's quite literally somebody doing something that is doing it because y'all don't know your shit. He's lying about what'll happen because he knows what's actually going to happen. Trump is not your friend. He is your enemy. I'm sorry I have to say that to you. Any of you out there who have to hear it and need to understand it. Some of you already well know it. Trump is not a friend of the Americans. Trump is a friend to anti-American values. Everything that stands for American does not Trump. And now y'all have been dumb enough to piss off the fucking psychotic hat. May they have mercy on you. May they have mercy on your poor ignorant soul.
Let's not ignore the diplomatic cost of tariffs, which has just pissed off our allies. No, Justin Trudeau in Canada just said there is literally no reason for these tariffs. Trump lies about punishing Canada for bringing fentanyl across the border. It's a total lie. There is no data and no evidence to back it up.
Donald, you're a very smart guy. This is a very dumb thing to do.
Now, secondly, let's talk about DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk, who isn't really heading it, except he is. An ideological department, in reality, cutting programs that Trump, Musk, and MAGA Republicans don't believe in. It's got nothing to do with efficiency or waste. Government was already extremely efficient. The reason we had 20 inspectors general was to ensure the efficiency of government contracts and to prevent waste and fraud and abuse in all government business, including a whistleblower department to enable federal workers to blow the whistle where they found impropriety. In his first week in office, Trump fired all the inspectors general. I mean, if he was serious about finding efficiency or inefficiency in the federal government, he would have kept these department heads and given them even more scope. So what's the real reason for getting rid of them? Well, Trump's history of criminal activity, corruption and fraud means that any oversight could potentially expose him for the stealing and the manipulating and the colluding to enrich himself and his wealthy friends. If you can't see that Trump is stealing from you, then you're not looking closely enough. Trump's surrogates go around claiming that the national debt is too high and the deficit is too big, and that's why these cuts are essential. But they're also lying to you. Remember, it was Trump that exploded the debt by $8 trillion during his first term. Republicans don't care about debt. Every Republican president has increased the debt. It's only Democrats that have reduced it, during which time Democrats invested in infrastructure and public service.
And anyone who doesn't believe it, just go look at the history books. Because, I'm sorry, it's 100% fact. That does not mean that there were not Democratic presidents that increased debt. Do not be mistaken on that. But not one has reduced debt of the Republicans.
This is, and Republicans come along and shut it all down, or take the credit for it, whichever requires least effort. So, Doge has cut essential services and programs that people all around the world rely on, and paid for by tax revenues, which Trump is reducing. So, if there's no income tax coming in, how does the government operate? Yes, there is an act that allows you to see a map of registered sex offenders in your area, and that's called the Newsbreak Act. And you will be so shocked when you see there's no income tax coming in. How does the government operate? Exactly. It doesn't. This is the slow and painful deconstruction of the administrative state, as detailed in Project 2025.
Well, we just basically...
Thank you for saying it. Means I'm not the only one seeing it.
Follow the money. We look at the president's executive orders, and we also just follow the money. So,
deconstruct the federal government, crash the US and world economy, fall out with our allies, create total world chaos, carnage, poverty, ignore climate change, ignore economists, social and political scientists, ignore expertise, medics, researchers, academics, all disappearing in favor of Donald Trump.
what we're trying to do is get that number down to a much smaller figure, save money for the American taxpayer, stop money being spent on things that I think very few taxpayers would agree make sense. Transgender animal surgeries, or why are we spending money? Why are American tax dollars being spent on this?
They really wanted to reduce cost.
There are not transgender animal surgeries going on. That's somebody not understanding scientific shorthand, which in the scientific community we're pretty bad. We use it all. I'm kind of guilty of it myself.
They would have started with the US military budget, but instead they're about to raid Social Security, Medicare, having sown the seed that there is fraud, but there isn't.
The way support in entitlement spending, which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's the big one to eliminate. That's the sort of half of the $700 billion a year.
Trump's plan is to privatize all government services. They want to mine them.
First off, that's a lie. Entitlements are not the bulk of government spending. How could entitlements be the bulk of government spending if the military takes up like 80% of the budget? I don't know about you, but that just doesn't math.
Pressure. Stealing from you to enrich themselves. This isn't a warning. It's actually happening.
Giving up your own stuff. I mean, how are you running your other businesses? With great difficulty.
But there's no turning back, you're saying. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel, podcast. On Wednesdays, co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on the Weekend Show with Midas Touch.
Nasty.
Who picks a fight with Canada? Honestly, the spending battle in Congress continues. Elon needed Trump to do a Tesla commercial because the stock is tanking. Cost a few $100 million. Speaking of people who are getting wise, Elon's lack of popularity is affecting Trump. As his current poll numbers, Trump's
economy are about as bad as it's ever seen. Welcome back to the podcast for the 54% of Americans who regularly vote for progress in every election and want to convince their friends and family members to join a majority. This is Majority 54. Robbie, before we get started, you have some live appearances coming up, including one that I think involves me.
Yes, I'm finally ready to talk about my book. So my novel comes out in just under 2 weeks. It's called Garbage.
See, I've got an issue with Robbie. Robbie doesn't pay enough attention and believes there was no interference. The election was clean, clear, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, dude, stop it. Fucking stop it. We have proof. Multiple forms of proof. And multiple instances of this happening. Even if you don't want to go into the stuff that's been legally happening for centuries. Sorry, not centuries, decades. Say it right. Right time frame, please. So to say that it was a clean, fair, and untampered with election is fucking wrong. And not a little bit. But on multiple levels. So, I'm not a big fan of Robbie for that outlook on the situation because, well, it's denying facts. And I'm not happy with that. But the show is a good show. For the most part, they're pretty on spot. These guys I've disagreed with a few times, but that one was one that I stopped listening to their show for a little bit, even though it is part of the Midas Touch Network.
Town. It's a coming-of-age thriller set in Staten Island, New York in the 1990s. It's about a group of kids growing up in the shadows of the Fresh Kills landfill, which is the largest garbage dump the world has ever seen. They discover something they shouldn't have found and basically have to fight for survival and have to grow up really fast. And so it really is a coming-of-age thriller, but it's really, I think of it as a period piece. It's really about the nostalgia for the 90s when we would ride bikes around our neighborhoods and just say, well, it's the messenger and pagers. Weren't glued to our phones all the time and perhaps weren't so divided by our politics. So I think if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s,
we were more willing to work together to get to an outcome. There was not such a staunch, I won't work with you from the political right that we see now. The political right wasn't pulling as heavy-handed, we want to limit you kind of shit. The 90s, to some extent, had a good point, but there were still bad points, too. So.
Or if you grew up later, but are nostalgia for a period of time you didn't experience, you'll love that, and hopefully you'll find it just to be a really thrilling story. We've been getting really, really good reviews, including from a former politician from Missouri who said it's like Goonies meets Goodfellas.
So, it's a great book, man. It's a great book. I got the hard copy. I was honored to be the first blurb at the top.
Yes. And so people can go out and pre-order.
The blurb is my cousin, Sam, which is pretty cool. So.
Yes, I need to get more members of your family in there. Yeah, Diane, I'm going to ask Diane next. I was going to save her for the nonfiction book. But people can go out to Amazon or you can support your local bookstores by go to bookstore.org. Actually have it sent straight to your local bookstores, which is always a great way to pre-order because then it tells your bookstores that you're interested in the book. But if you live in a couple cities, we're coming to you. So March 31st for the folks out in St. Louis at Left Bank Books, you and I will be speaking at that event together. We'll mix the politics and the book. March 27th in New York City at P&T Knitwear, which will be that evening in the Lower East Side. March 30th in Staten Island at St. Andrews. And maybe Kansas City. I was you and I were talking about, we have one potential date. If you
That's my foot.
live in Kansas City and know the bookstores there very well, or have a venue, try to do something on the 1st if we can make it work. And here's my promise to you: if you put together a great event and help me put it together, I promise I will sign as many Kansas City books, Go Chiefs, as you asked me to do. That will be
pretty good.
Buy the book, you know. So that's what I promise you.
That's how you sell a book. Shamelessness.
So come through Kansas City. I would love to stay in your state one extra day. Because I haven't been back there since we did the whole catastrophe at the Arrowhead Stadium. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's start talking about politics here.
Well, catastrophes actually inelegant transition here, but there's been a lot of back and forth with our neighbors in the north about tariffs. We'll get into the line by line, but I think the emotional content of it is best summarized in this clip of Doug Ford, who, mind you, is the conservative leader of Ottawa and basically the opposition leader. That's what he had to say yesterday.
On the electricity. Stay tuned.
So what does that look like? What are the potential responses?
Well, we'll see. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress, this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession, which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming both countries right now.
I realized I forgot to give people the URL before. So go to garbagetownbook.com. Now, Doug Ford, Trump recession. I love that. That should be in ads.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it says a lot. There's some pretty contentious politics going on right now in Canada as well, like separate from everything else, right? Like you just had, I think Trudeau was just replaced by his own party as the leader of the party, and then you have these folks are slugging it out, and they all seem to agree on one thing, which is they're all against Trump, and they all blame Trump for economic woes in Canada and in the United States. It says a lot. He's managed to unify Canada.
Yeah, I spent the morning reading through articles across the U.S. political spectrum about tariffs, and I would say that even the...
God bless you for doing that sort of thing. We're going to do it. So.
Well, I was trying to get the measure, whenever people... One thing you know for sure about our country is anytime serious people with serious amounts of money are at stake, they are much more likely to tell the truth when it's the money at stake than our ideals or maybe lives of both Americans and Ukrainians. But once those dollars, people start talking. And a good example here is the Wall Street Journal editorial board, which is a Murdoch paper. This used to be like the most reactionary conservative opinion page. Now, I do want to give them credit. They've been speaking some truth on Ukraine, and they've been speaking truth on tariffs. They've written a bunch of pieces.
Well, they've always been, it's not like they've been socially conservative, right? I mean, they are the definition of country club conservatism.
Yeah, they were a little weak in their knees heading into this election around like both sidesism and all that. But look, that is not even the 1000th fight I would want to fight. But they wrote a piece today basically saying two things. One, tariffs are bad on substance, and the herky-jerky nature of the will they, won't they on tariffs is bad on its own merits. And so this is how I would talk to people in your life about this, which is like, look, if you happen to have a weird friend who has a really substantive and robust defense of tariffs, or just like a very basic one, which is like, hey, we should build more shit here, which is not totally wrong, obviously, so you don't want to fight them on that point. You could say, look, like, it could be right, but what's happening here is that every single day, and I think the Wall Street Journal said, we don't know, like, we have to basically wait to see what side of the bed Trump wakes up in the morning to find out what our tariff policy is that he keeps going back and forth. And even people like Alcoa CEO, the Alcoa Aluminum Company, are saying things like, we just can't plan. And that means we're just not going to invest. And the markets have been jittery here. And look, like there's been some good news economically, like a little bit here. Like today, there was some somewhat favorable inflation data where the inflation numbers came back 0.1% better than what the economists were predicting, which was not great numbers. And so that temporarily paused a consistent slide in the markets. But it might not even last till the end of the day. You and I are recording midday. But following that inflation news, which was somewhat positive, although completely divorced from tariffs because it was the February numbers that didn't bake in any of the implementation tariffs or any of the new herky-jerky stuff we've seen. By the end of the day, we've already seen Canada announcing today that it's going to impose 25% tariffs on more than $20 billion worth of U.S. goods in retaliation for Trump putting these tariffs on steel and aluminum. These tariffs from Canada cover steel and aluminum as well as other U.S. goods, including computers, sports equipment, cast iron products, and they will take effect tomorrow. And if you're an audio listener, the day you listen to this podcast, these are on top of the 25% counter tariffs that Doug Ford in Ottawa had already implemented. And so this is a pretty big deal, and this comes as Trump faces the worst numbers on the economy that he has ever seen in terms of his numbers.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Americans are like, wow, oh yeah, I forgot about the chaos of the first Trump administration. And now, it seems like at least the slight majority of Americans accepted Trump narrative in the 2024 election about the 2016 to 20 economy, right? Not all Americans, but a slight majority at least settled for the idea that the economy was going fine until the pandemic happened. So, let's just judge him pre-pandemic. There were enough people that did that. I disagree with that, but there were enough people that did that. Right? And now, I think it's making people remember that, he was super chaotic and he couldn't make up his mind, and that was a huge problem even before COVID. And now he seems to be doing that with a lot more economic stuff. Prior to COVID, he didn't do this kind of stuff. He talked about tariffs, but he didn't do this crazy, whiplash back and forth thing. The tariffs were nowhere near as substantial. They certainly didn't start the moment he got in. He didn't start this level of trade war. And so I think it's just like you said, it's making people who are otherwise willing to tolerate it be like, well, now you're messing with my money.
Well, and also people within the White House, and this was a separate Wall Street Journal article, his economic team, and this feels very first term, everybody's like, I don't know what's going on. Trump is announcing things. I don't know where they're coming from. Commerce Secretary, the Treasury Secretary, everybody seems at odds. Commerce Secretary is floating that they're going to pull back tariffs. Other people are surprised, and then they have to try to push Trump to do what they're asking. This is all going on while people in business are lobbying Trump to have either carve-outs for their protected businesses or to levy tariffs against their opponents, or in some cases both, which is why, I've been at various points susceptible to an argument for tariffs because I don't love the global supply chain reaching places where there's human rights abuses, lack of labor protections, and also anti-competitive behavior like what we see in places like China. So if you were to make an argument just on strictly non-economic grounds for tariffs at various points, I'm very susceptible to those arguments. The problem is when you put it in the hands of somebody like Trump, historically in the U.S., this is where a lot of the late 1800s, early 1900s corruption came from, and there's nobody more susceptible to somebody walking through the door and getting a carve-out and donating the right amount of money or investing in the right Trump business or just saying the right flattering thing and getting a carve-up, which means that what winds up happening is it's not that tariffs are improving American domestic business or harming China. It's just improving Trump's standing and leading to a lot of complexity and corruption, which is essentially what I think we are today.
This is the problem with right-wing figures try to pass these huge ideological concepts as legislation or as new policies, because for anything like this, whether it's a flat tax or moving to exclusively a sales tax, or we're going to have across the board huge 25% tariffs, not targeted, we're just going to base it on rhetoric and vibes. or even like going all the way back to, you remember the 999 tax plan, any of that stuff. The problem is that it doesn't account for the fact that there are cronies, conservative cronies, and friends and supporters of these folks who absolutely expect from day one to be carved out. I remember being in the state legislature, it was like 2009, and I remember we were having this big debate. They were trying to pass a bill that would, I think it was to move us entirely, it was either to move us entirely to a sales tax or to make the state all on a flat tax. I think it was to move everything to sales tax and get rid of the income tax. And I remember a lot of us Democrats were up arguing like, hey, if you do this, you're going to end up screwing a lot of working people.
Yeah.
And everybody kept saying, no, that's not going to happen. Because, see, we're not going to have any carve-outs. Everybody's going to pay the exact same thing. Okay. So the bill passed, went out of the state Senate where it died. But the very next bill, like we finished this bill, and the next bill that comes up is a state sales tax holiday for certain industries. And it was like, I remember being like, you just, like, literally 5 minutes ago, you said there will be no carve-outs.
What?
You've already got one lined up. I remember, like, working on ethics bills.
Bad girl.
People from powerful industries come up to me and my Republican co-sponsor and be like, hey, we're super supportive.
I will get your
this
butt.
finance bill. You're going to carve us out of it, though, right? It's like, it's an ethics bill.
I see this, I'm a big school choice guy, but we used to pass these bills in Tennessee and Mississippi where the rural areas didn't want charter schools.
Right.
Now, one could make a substantive argument that you need a certain amount of scale for it to make sense and all that kind of stuff, but it never sat well with me. It's like, I believe in it, and if you believe in it, you should want it for your community too. And the more pernicious versions of these are like takeover, like district takeover legislation that specifically overlooks underperformance of rural districts. So they basically just want to go after urban Democratic areas to take them over, which is definitely been a feature of business in Texas. So that never sits well with me either. Now, this is the economy. The U.S. its own retaliatory measures going on. This is happening because Congress is debating what to do on spending, and I think what we're seeing here is panic on the right, which is if you already have a backsliding stock market, you've got jittery inflation, you've got economic uncertainty, you've got every economic luminary essentially out there saying that they're worried about a recession.
No, you don't know about it.
You've got an erratic president, and you've got Doge cuts, which, as we've established, are pulling back funding and adding more uncertainty that has economic effects. It's essentially austerity, as our private fence owner said last week in the clip that we shared. I guess my new team, Jason, as we've established on a different podcast.
I support you switching.
Look, deeper pockets than the Steinbrenner family, it seems. At this point.
Absolutely. We can do a whole thing on it.
So, subscribe to the Game Within, where you get your podcasts. Where was I? Oh yeah, so we got this basically they're panicking. They can't have a government shutdown amidst all this other stuff, both economically but also because of the chaos it would imply. So
they're in charge of everything.
Yeah, this is what happens, and we'll get to some of the more fun elements of what it means for them to be in charge of everything. But the reality here, Politico had a really funny article about this, which is how all these hardline conservatives who, as a matter of principle, were against continuing resolutions, are all on record now supporting this bill that passed the House, which gives a few weeks, I think 6-week extension, and they're pressed to be like, hey, you always said you were against this, and in many ways, this is your identity. This is like whatever the caucus is, the fucking bald eagle caucus or whatever they call it. It's like whatever your caucus is that was created exclusively for the
Yellow Ribbons and Freedom Prize caucus.
Yeah, that caucus. They're all like, well, Trump is a nice guy, and he reassured me that this was really important. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's where your principle ends. It's because some guy called you up and flattered you.
Yeah, I'm afraid of Elon Musk and Trump's speech, so I'm on board. I've seen the light. It's different when Trump does it. It's different when it's a continuing resolution when Trump does it. There's also, of course, this problem now that the Senate Democrats have of whether or not to step in. Why does is this happening constantly to us? Of like, well, the Republicans have stepped on their junk, and now it's up to Democrats to decide whether, for the good of the country, to stop a shutdown, should they step in and help? And you've got a real moral dilemma here, right? Because on the one hand, politically, it just makes sense to say, well, y'all are screwed.
I'm a big no on this one. Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. If you shut down the government in the age of Doge, when they're trying to cut everything, right? Well, one, I mean, you have the problem of shutting down the government. It hurts people every time you do it, right? So there's that. Like, that will stimulate to that's part of the moral dilemma. And then there's the concern of, like, if you shut down the government when they're dozing the hell out of things, are you just empowering them to doge like crazy without oversight, to do whatever the hell they want? If they're sending people home anyway, not paying them, and then they're like, just don't come back. It's a real moral wonder.
Well, yeah, let me make my case for a version of the vote no argument. Number one, as you mentioned, the politics, right? Like if you were only interested in the success of your political party and the demise of your opponents, I think it's pretty clear that's the smart thing to do. Now, once you bring in the question of ethics and morals, which unfortunately we're Democrats and this is a thing that we consider, I still think it makes sense to have a variant of the vote no strategy. And the way I look at it is, like, vote no unless they really give you a meaningful concession. And that concession should involve Doge. It should be like, look, like, they're, like, create a list. Like, we need proof that funding is flowing on these. Prioritize the top 10 things that you need to make sure that.
I'll give you a couple of things. Here's what I want from the administration in order. People who live in D.C. told me that part of this current budget cuts like $100 billion or something like that. It's already been raised by D.C. taxpayers out of the budget, which is not fair. But there's a bunch of court orders in place that the Trump administration is ignoring right now. So, for instance, there's a court order in place that says shutting down the U.S. refugee program, that you don't have the authority to do that. That you don't have the authority to tell 1,600 Afghan allies who are in hiding and thought they were about to fly out of Afghanistan to come here, that they can't come here because the law says that this program exists. The law says that you have to administer it. And the court has said you can't stop, right? The court has said you can't stop giving out this foreign aid that Congress has appropriated. You can't just stop doing it unilaterally. And they're ignoring those court orders. So that would be at the top of my list. I mean, you want my vote on this? Like, you're going to comply with the court orders that are in place right now.
Yeah, you build it into the law, which is like, look, this 6-week reprieve, but if there's like
what are you doing?
incredible yada yada, like, you know, like set up some kind of like mechanism to confirm this. If the Congressional Budget Office or something confirms that any funding of these categories isn't reaching its recipients in a timely manner, then we are back to a shutdown. I don't know, like, whatever way you craft that, you have to be, like, pretty crafty about it. But also, like, what the benefit of 6 weeks is you can be back there in 6 weeks. So if they break that promise, no matter what the enforcement mechanism, you could be back at the table. The problem is, and why I'm a very, like, I mean, heavy no without some really serious guarantees, is none of these people can be trusted.
Right.
And they can't even be trusted to follow the law. So, like, even writing a law, like, that's part of what I would be, like, sitting around the table. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is like international relations. I had a professor once said it's international suggestions is what he called it. I'd be like, what is this? Like, we're just kind of advising your king, right? Like, this is, so, like, let's just write it on toilet paper and send it up Pennsylvania Avenue. What does it even matter?
Let's be really clear about politically what is happening right now, because we've seen it, right? Like, the Republicans, when they were shutting down the government while Biden was in charge, when they were threatening to shut down the government while Biden was in charge, we kept wanting the American people to look at that and hold Republicans accountable for it. And they just didn't. It just didn't happen. Because when you are not in an election season, the vast majority, people think that, I've said this a million times, but people think that swing voters are swing voters because they're ideologically in the middle. Sometimes that's true. Usually, they're swing voters because they have opinions, but they're not tightly held, right? They're loosely held opinions, and they engage closer to election. What that means is that other than right at election time, they're not going to engage at such a focused level that they're always going to properly assign blame. Look at the immigration debate from the last campaign, right? We know that it was the Republicans who tanked a good immigration bill. The Republicans benefited from, a lack of action on immigration because a lot of those people who swing the election are just not engaged at that level. And if that's the case, that means that politically, Democrats hold all the cards here because Republicans control everything. They will own this, and they won't be able to get away with just blaming the Democrats for the government. Not
this is
with the base, but not with everybody else.
This is a variant of like the what do we do at the joint session speech stuff that we were talking about last week, where you're like, you were making the argument like the base like kind of wants people to show fight or whatever. The reviews post that have been very harsh as I was watching them in terms of like the way like people are talking about what people in the chamber did or whatever. And I expressed my views. It's like I felt like in the end it didn't matter that much. Nobody's gonna remember all this. This is the real fight, this is where you and I think are aligned, which is like this is where like actually fighting it lines up well. Like the base is going to be asking for it. If you're a member listening to this, look, and I'm no lefty, but I'm like if my member were like Jared Golden or what's his name, the guy.
You're pretty lefty. I mean, by regular standards, you're a lefty, just not by.
Well, I'm not like an AOC Democrat. I'm usually like I'm kind of probably kind of be as a centrist. I'm like if you're kind of laying down in this one, I would support primary change. If you're not taking these kind of fights on like the right way, this is why you're there right now, is to be smart about this kind of stuff.
Let's. I see you feel like a centrist because of the podcast world that we live in. But, but by any basic American standard,
I think of myself as like a Jared Polis Democrat, which however people would put it's like a libertarian adjacent Democrat. But
I would posit to you that 40+% of his constituents consider him to be a crazy liberal. That's my point.
Yeah, but my point being, maybe a better way of putting it is I'm often critical of the activist wing of our party. I am with them on this one, which is that you do not lay down on this. You do not you don't hem and haw and worry about what the editorial pages of yada yada think about you. You actually just fight and hold out and don't negotiate with yourself on this one. I think it's really important. This particular fork in the road is critical because if you lay down now and you build that muscle memory and do what people like Fetterman are asking, which is like be the quote-unquote responsible adults, which I think is the wrong way of looking at it. I don't think that's an accurate way of portraying this. Then this is how all these fights will play. Once you do it once, it is how it will happen for the rest of this administration.
They can do whatever they want if we're saving them.
Yes.
And the only way to keep them from doing whatever they want is to sometimes not save them. Right? So, all right. I want to go to the meeting, so I want us to take a break, and then I want us to talk about these poll numbers on the economy that are actually very bad for Trump and should be very encouraging for our audience. So stick around. I'm going to be studying some stuff.
When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. You need it, and it's not something that you can fix yourself. And men should think the exact same way about ED. But the reality is that you might be hesitant to seek help. Thankfully, through HIMS, you can get access to personalized ED treatment without stepping outside your door. HIMS is changing men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatment from the comfort of your couch. And HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. process is 100% online, so there's no need for the uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option and prescribe your medication ships directly to you for free. No insurance is needed. One low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/majority. That's HIMS.com/majority for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/majority. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
All right, all of this chaos is having an effect. People are noticing. Americans are not impressed with President Trump's stewardship of the economy. This is the new CNN poll. It's him underwater on the top issue, the economy. Even though his ratings among best, this is always what's rated the best. His whole time as president, first time, second time. As markets slide and investors worry in response to Trump's trade policies, a 56% majority of the public disapproves of his handling of the economy, which is worse than at any point during his first term in office. And if y'all recall, we had a pandemic that was very bad for the economy during his first term in office. This is worse than at any point during his first term in office. By contrast, the 51% who now say they approve of his work on immigration, which is headlined by stricter enforcement efforts, is 7 points higher than at any point during his first term. Economic concerns continue to dominate the poll finds, with 42% of Americans choosing the economy as their top issue from a list of 7, more than doubling the share who picked any other issue, including the state of U.S. democracy, which is 19%, the way the federal government works, 14%, immigration, 12%. So let's pay attention to that. He's gone up 7 points on his handling of immigration, but only 12% of people have that as their top issue. Healthcare is 6%, foreign policy 3%, climate change 2%. So I'll stop there. We can get into some more numbers in a second, but that seems bad.
Yeah, it's funny. Like let's pretend that he solved the border crisis, which inevitably whenever Trump is in office, there's always going to be an effect no matter what he's doing, because people are going to be less likely to cross for a lot of reasons. But I think it's probably stipulated that they're going to be way stricter, including in some cases ignoring certain laws or removing protected status of schools people would be critical of. But this is a big thing, right? Like he's gonna quote unquote solve immigration and stipulate that he take the bipartisan bill and yada yada yada. All of that being true, the downside of that is that it becomes less of an issue. Once they think you've solved it, or you actually did solve it, people no longer are going to make it their number one issue. And my critique of them is there was very real immigration issues going on in this country. But they hyped them up to such a degree that once you get into power and you quote-unquote solve it in people's minds, which I think is part of what's going on here, there's no longer the motivation for people to care about it anymore, unless you then try to make it like, oh, if these bums get back in power, it's going to be crazy. But if you could just flip the switch like this to solve it, it's like, it's just not this crisis anymore. Whereas the economy, in contrast to the pandemic, is
always an issue.
And this is not an external event. People, I think, understandably looked at Trump on, no matter how chaotic some of his pandemic policies were. The economy was going to get crushed no matter what, and people understood that. This is a crisis of Trump's making.
Yes.
And this is going to be hard for him to dig himself out of.
And he promised a certain thing on the economy, and he raised expectations. There are people, I promise you, did not vote for Trump, voted for Harris, who are wealthier or at least middle class, who are like, well, he is probably going to be better for me in the economy. And he's not even been good for those. You know what I mean? So imagine if you did vote for him. And also the problem he has with immigration now is if you are saying, I'm doing all these things and it's going to solve it, and then you want to keep the boogeyman around, as an issue for the midterms, Well, then your narrative has to be, I'm trying to do these things, but the Democrats are stopping. Well, if you go 2 years saying I'm trying to do these things and the Democrats are stopping me, then you run into the problem of people will stop voting on that issue because they will give up on the idea that you can actually do it. I think the most analogous issue for that, for us, sadly, is guns. Because the majority of Americans, vast majority of Americans, agree with what the Democrats have wanted to do on guns and on climate. So these are both very similar. And Joe Biden tries to do a lot of things on both of those, and he gets basically nowhere with it, right? And so I think a lot of those people stop voting on those issues, even though they didn't stop agreeing with Biden on those issues, and they didn't stop blaming the Republicans for it. But they just go, well, it's a sunk cost. It's not going to happen, so why would I base my vote on it? It's unrealistic. And he can end up in that place on immigration if he vilifies the Democrats too much for his lack of progress. So he has to pretend he's made a lot of progress, and then it gets harder to run.
Yeah, and what was interesting about the CNN write-up is that they said that his approval rating is 45% versus 54% disproven. If you read that on face, you're like, well, that looks bad. And it is. But he has had such bad historic approval ratings that that's actually among the best approval ratings ever had. And so I think we should watch this because essentially what the polls are saying, if you read it carefully, this is my assessment of it, is that people voted on the economy. It's becoming more of an issue for them. They are not impressed with what Trump is doing. They do like some of the vibes on other things. They like his take charge nature is kind of how I read some of the other stuff. There's stuff that we didn't talk about in terms of like ahistoric nature, which he sees in power. We talked about this last week. I see these memes even on the left where people are like, I wish Biden would like be more like directive and yada yada. I mean, ignoring, as we talked about last week, the fact that like we believe in laws and a lot of this stuff is show, right? Which I guess some people want more show. But I think people forget that Biden tried things like student loan forgiveness.
Exactly. The courts just wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah, and then there were other things he did that people just forget, like the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, and keep going, right? Okay, now let's get to another part of this poll, which is interesting, which is on one Elon Musk. Just 35% of Americans express a positive view of Musk, with 53% rating him negatively, and only 11% having no opinion of him, right? So now Vance has really underwater numbers. 33% of people rate him favorably, 44% unfavorably, but there are 23% have no opinion of him. So more than double the amount of people who have no opinion on Musk. So Musk is a much more prominent figure in this country than J.D. Vance is. This is a problem for Republicans, and a lot of Republicans will admit it. Like, they're worried about Musk's branding and how it's grafting onto Trump, and there's been this parlor game of like, when is Trump going to ditch Musk? And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. It all depends on the nature of the relationship. This is a financial relationship, which makes you think there's some durability to it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to break. I mean, he just put $100 million more into the Trump political operation last week, and Donald Trump is looking at this, going, "Well, in a few years, I'm not going to be president, and
I need the richest man in the world.
I need the richest man in the world on my side. I need him on my side for the next administration, so that I can get him the pardons I might possibly need. I need him on my side for my family. I need him on my side because we want to buy more stuff." I mean, I think he wants a full merger with Musk, as evidenced by the fact that he started hawking Teslas at the White House this week. Which we just watched that press.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And so what these cars want to report. So they're great cars and they're American made. And I think they're trying like
the White House presses, by the way.
Celebrate somebody that has the courage to do this. He could have said, I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to get involved, let the country go to hell. He didn't want to do that. And remember, it's going to find that we're up to almost $500 billion worth of waste and fraud. And it's $500 billion. We're giving $2 billion here, $2 billion, not millions. It was if it was $1 million or $2 billion, that's a lot of money. But we're talking about billions of dollars being given to defunct scams. Given to people with nothing. There's nothing going. They open up.
God damn it, that one's good. Someone finally fucking did it. I was waiting for it. Say hello to Lord Farquaad. Or should I say Elon Musk? I was fucking waiting for it.
$1 million into it from nowhere.
Again, for those who were only listening, this was apparently during the visitation period for Trump or for Musk and his son. So I guess I don't know how it works. Maybe they meet at a McDonald's and the social services lady comes along and then they go to an event at the White House. I think that's monthly how he sees his kid. I'm guessing because the other clips I've seen, you and I just on our other show talked about yesterday about whether it's okay to critique somebody's parenting. I feel very comfortable critiquing the parenting of Elon Musk, given that he has been prolific but not attentive as a parent. So, all that said, I like how Trump continues to just throw out numbers that are meaningless, like 500 billion. I mean, they're just out of thin air. He just pulls them out of thin air. But it is Trump and Musk standing with a bunch of Teslas and Musk doing a commercial. It's like friends get too aggravated about it because it's not surprising. But it is. Democrats, if you're listening, this is what you talk about when you talk about official corruption. You take this super unpopular guy who has basically become the vice president or co-president, really, of the United States. You talk about the fact that he paid $300 million to buy his way into doing whatever he wants, and what he's getting in return is government contracts and the president of the United States selling cars for him.
And the context here is that Tesla stock has been taken. Right? That's the context here. And, essentially what Trump is trying to do here, and this clip tells us a lot, as silly as the clip is. It tells us that this relationship is going to endure for at least a while. Because you don't bring him out in front of the White House and try to sell his cars. Unless you are pretty airtight on this kind of stuff. And what he's trying to do is like the reverse Bud Light. He's trying to say, okay, all these liberals are no longer buying Tesla, and that is your market, right? So I need to create a new market. So the kind of people who are buying big pickup trucks, Ford F-150s or whatever crazy big truck you had that exploded.
I have another one now. I had to replace it. I am a Ford guy.
But what you probably don't see in a lot of neighborhoods in Missouri are Teslas. And I actually Trump is he's got such brand cachet on the right. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw an uptick. Do I think it's going to be enough to make up? Yeah, is it enough to make up for the actual pretty strict boycott I think you're going to see on the left? I think boycotts generally don't work. This is an exception because I think it's just so one-to-one. The Tesla brand is so much associated with Musk. It's why, for instance, when I mentioned on a different pod that if Musk bought the Bills, I would stop rooting for the Bills. It's just too one-to-one. He's not your normal CEO.
Here's why this boycott is more than a boycott. And why I think it's having such an effect is because, for instance, a lot of people have a lot of issues with Amazon, rightfully so. Washington Post and everything else. But Amazon has made itself ubiquitous in American life, and it is at this point, sadly, it is inconvenient to not use Amazon at times. Not to mention the fact that if you do get Amazon deliveries, your neighbors see it, but that's it, right? People see what car you drive.
Yeah.
And if at this point, and I don't feel great about this, but when I see a Tesla, when I see someone in a Tesla, I make an assumption about the political views, and honestly, at this point, I hate to say it, but the character a bit.
I don't. I think only of the car and its maker. I'm going to be straight on that. I do not judge somebody based on the kind of car they drive. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do. Everybody has different tastes, flavors, and enjoyments. Some people like to choose a car just because it's fun to drive as a daily driver. Some because it's efficient. Some because it's practical. There are so many different reasons to buy a car that being judgmental about it's not worth time. You can dislike a car and have no problem driving.
Of the person. Now, I know that a lot of people bought it before all this came along and that kind of thing.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah.
But when I see a Cybertruck, I am like, you knew when you bought it. And
you
also,
knew when you
that's
bought
not
it.
a truck. That's an El Camino, and it looks ridiculous. And just
It's not even an El Camino.
It's an insult to El Caminos.
Yes.
But so I do judge that. And
that one I will too.
This is the President of the United States doing an ad at the White House for a guy who sells
100%. If you have a Cybertruck, you fucking knew when you bought it. You knew what he was. You had the chance. You knew what they were. You had the chance. If you're trying to get rid of it now, good on you.
It's overpriced. Overpriced, overrated cars that are assembled by non-union workers that are underpaid. And he is a big union buster. So, if you listen to this and you own a Tesla and you're trying to figure out what to do, go get your ass a Ford or a Chevy or whatever. Go get an American car. I mean, the Ford's making a Mustang now that is basically the Tesla. It's just not made by this guy.
Ford is making an E-Stag, yes. And the prototypes that they've got put out for some of the different simulation games for arcade sim mixes seem pretty alright. They'll do just fine on the road. I don't necessarily know if I like it for drifting, but I pick.
I think it's going to have. I think that the boycott from the left one, I do think that they will be successful in somewhat making up for it. Yeah.
And something about the way that finances work for these billionaires, especially like somebody like Musk, who's entangled with a lot of things. Yes, he's worth a lot of money, but a lot of stuff is entangled with stock options and things like that. And the less liquid he gets, the more control he has to give up over his companies, and the more tight he gets, which means the less money he has to throw around for political causes, and just the more general stress you cause him. So it definitely feels like the kind of thing that you should keep at it. If I were the kind of person to purchase cars, I would certainly forego my Tesla this year. Yeah. I've always wondered why they never had a motorcycle. If they had a Tesla motorcycle before all this, I would have bought a Tesla motorcycle. That would be cool.
Tesla motorcycles probably would have went over rather well. But we all know how that goes. Thank you for coming in and trying to sell viewers in my channel. Have a nice day.
As long as it's not like a Cybertruck boxy looking thing. Okay, this is all a wind up to say that Musk is one of the reasons why Musk's numbers are so bad is because it's more than just liberals critiquing him. It's more than just the mainstream media. A lot of sort of counterculture, which means the less money he has to throw around for political causes, and just the more general stress you cause him. So it definitely feels like the kind of thing that you should keep at it. If I were the kind of person to purchase cars, I would certainly forego my Tesla this year. I've always wondered why they never had a motorcycle. If they had a Tesla motorcycle before all this, I would have bought a Tesla motorcycle. As long as it's not like a Cybertruck boxy looking thing. Okay, this is all a wind up to say that Musk is one of the reasons why Musk's numbers are so bad is because it's more than just liberals critiquing him. It's more than just the mainstream media. A lot of sort of counterculture figures, comedians, sports people are railing against Musk. The most notable here is Bill Burr. And before we play this clip, there's a lot of curse words and just words that we don't use on this podcast here. So if you've got kids in the car or whatever, you might want to just fast forward past this.
It's Bill Burr.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Bill Burr.
So let's go to this clip.
For fucking Sieg Heiling not once but twice, and I never look at my emails
I was scrolling through my emails and it said my Twitter account had been flagged for inappropriate. I don't even tweet anymore. It had been flagged for it. What a fucking baby. Just like Hitler. A fucking baby. But the fact that the Twitter guy he's not even from here. He's from South Africa. He comes to this country and wants to turn it into a fucking dictatorship. He doesn't feel that we deserve democracy. Can you just imagine doing that? Going to another country and just deciding, yeah, you know what? I'm going to change this form of government because I've decided.
I'm with him.
Yeah, he doesn't mind living under a dictatorship as long as he's on the good side of it.
I'm with you.
Fucking laminated faced cunt. Because that's another thing. All of these people that are into fucking Hitler, you know what I mean? And like, look at this guy like he was some sort of fucking hero. The guy's one of the biggest fucking cowards ever. All the pain and all the suffering that guy's caused, and the war crimes the Allies had to commit, firebombing fucking cities to get that motherfucker. When it came time for him to pay the price for all the suffering he caused millions and millions and millions of people, did he face the music? No, he gave himself a nice, quick, painless fucking death.
Yep.
That's your fucking hero? Fucking coward is what he was.
So, okay, let's put this in context. Bill Burr, you can't say he's on the right. You can't really say he's on the left. He's been a guy who, I think, a pretty good avatar for sort of that swing white male American voter, right? It's like, he doesn't want to be told what words he cannot say. And he also is a guy who, he happens to, I listen to Bill Burr, to that show, his podcast, pretty frequently. And he cares a lot about the environment. He was at times a Bernie guy. You know, he talks a lot about the big collection of trash in the ocean. It really bothers him. You know, so like
he's a Luigi. He's a free Luigi guy. So he's at Hudson also that he goes on Rogan.
Yeah, he goes on Rogan. I'm not sure. I don't view him. He does a lot of material about guns, and I don't see him as super anti-gun. I think he's like, you know, I mean, he's a pretty politically, he's a pretty down the middle normal dude. He knows what he thinks about certain things. There's a lot of stuff he doesn't care about. Yes. And I think this is a really interesting canary in the coal mine because this is what we've been talking about. That Elon Musk is not like, Elon Musk has made himself the center of the Republican Party in this country. And he is loved by conservative pros who worship wealth. What that means is he is not something that the Republican Party can escape politically. It's not escapable for them. They own him for years. And guys like Bill Burr, who I think are guys who are willing to vote for either party, look at Elon Musk and go, this guy is screwing us. And we should pay attention to that.
Yeah, and here's like a somewhat like edgy way of thinking about it. And I only advocate for this if certain things happen, but so much of our attention is on Trump, and understandably, like the weaker he is, the better off this country is in many ways because of the destructive things he's trying to do. But there's also a world in which you think about what comes next. And who do we know is going to be next up? Well, Vance and Musk, really. That's how I think about it. Vance, Musk, and then the Republican Party. Sometimes Trump's goals are not the same as the goals of those other people, right? Like,
well,
Trump's
frankly,
goals are
when they are the same, it's a coincidence.
Yes, totally. Right now, Trump's goals are very narrow. Enrich himself and, like, have fun doing whatever shit he's doing.
Build a legacy and retaliate against the people who does it.
And remember how we left the Obama administration, right? Obama popular, Hillary the Democratic Party not as great, right? So that gives us a sense of what this could look like in a couple of years, which is Vance unpopular, and Vance is doing out of step even with Trumpism, right? Like, get used to talking, right? Like, if you talk to people in your life who love Trump, ask yourself how much is riding on you actually, like, untangling them from Trump, and actually how much can you seize an opportunity, like people's hatred of Musk and perhaps their lack of opinion on somebody like Vance, to say that's the terrain we can fight, you know, on, instead of Trump. So that brings me to the next sort of pop culture.
Hold on, before we go there, let me expound on that a little, because for years the way that we beat the Republicans was that we owned the populist space, and for us to get back in the position we were in, we have to either make serious inroads with, or maybe even start to win working class Americans. And the way we did that for years is that there was a basic popular culture understanding of the two parties in this country. And that was that if you worked for a living, then you had no love for the corporate class, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for you, if you weren't signing a paycheck, but instead you were getting a paycheck, why would you love the people who own, all the corporations? And then what happened? The Republicans, through Trump and through the Apprentice and all of his persona, have managed to really change that, right? Musk represents a huge Achilles heel because he is now they've done a good job of making us seem like the corporate class, making the Democrats seem like the corporate class, because they've made DEI and wokeness. It's all bullshit, but they've made it synonymous with corporatism and wearing ties and white collar world. But Musk is a different version of the same thing. Musk is the richest man in the world. He's the richest man in the world who doesn't care about his children, doesn't care about you. There are very few people out there who are not already in the tank for MAGA who are like, Elon Musk cares about people like me.
Yes.
And the reason that they had no choice but to hang on to the corporate class for so long is because that's who was funding their campaigns. And what is Musk doing? He's funding their campaigns.
Well, this reminds me of a clip that, for some reason, I can't find it. It's on Fox Business. They paywalled it or something. But on Dave Portnoy, who's at Barstool Sports, who I think explicitly is a Trump supporter, but is a reverent guy, to say the least, went on Fox Business, and Stuart Barney on Fox Business asked him, do you think maybe Musk is too busy with Doge, and that's why Tesla's down so much? And this is what Dave Portnoy said. He said, so I'm a big stockholder of Tesla, and I certainly raise my eyebrows. I like Doge. I like what they're doing. But let me tell you this. If you're going to send out, and you got to call it both ways, if you're going to send emails to federal workers and say, what have you done for the last 5 days? I think Tesla shareholders are entitled to ask their CEO, Elon Musk, what have you done for Tesla the last 5 days? I mean, it's seemingly all he cares about right now is Doge. Now, it could be a coincidence that the stock is down 25% since he really started this, I guess. But I think it's fair as a shareholder of Tesla to say, what are you doing for Tesla shareholders now? Maybe you're greasing the wheels, get some deals through the government. I don't know, but it's certainly inbounds to ask Elon Musk, what are you doing for Tesla right now? And I find this interesting because, we're not on the same page as Portnoy on Doge yet, but he's looking at somebody like Musk, and these figures like Bill Burr and Portnoy, who are very different people, so I don't want to say they're the same kind of people, but a lot of these people have made a name for themselves by being no bullshit. And right now we're finding out who's the no bullshit and who's the bullshit version of that. And what we're finding is that some of these people with huge followings, and Portnoy is one of these people who just doesn't have to answer to anybody anymore, is now an inconvenience to the people who used to be in his good graces when they appeared the right to be the people calling bullshit on us. And this is a huge opportunity for us. And my big request of our audience is, yes, there are lots of things about Dave Portnoy and maybe Bill Burr and others that aren't perfect for you. But I really think it's important for us to enter this particular part of the web and the cultural conversation in as friendly a way as possible, because these people could be our allies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's bad.
Yes.
You want to win, you got to get as many people in your game as you possibly can. So this is this may be the first show we've done since the election where I feel like there's some hope, some silver linings and some good news.
We know what our job is. It's always good to wake up. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, I don't know what to do, and I felt that way a lot of these weeks. I think right now, in the past few weeks, I think it's come into view. All right, what is our job? What is the story we are telling about this country? And it is becoming clear right now we got to get out there and we got to do it, and we can't get in our own way here. That's the key.
All right, so that's the show for this week. What else is going on with you? You're still in New Orleans?
I'm in New Orleans. It was funny. I'm my dad. I'm going to Colorado tonight to do like a retreat with a bunch of my friends from law school. A lot of them coming out of the Biden administration, so we should hear from them. We do it once a year, but I haven't done it since like the Bush administration because they used to go to Vegas, and I don't really like Vegas. And now they're doing Breckenridge, Colorado, so it's gonna be fun. But my dad was in New Orleans the other day because he flies through New Orleans to go to Alabama, where he still does a little bit of medical work. And we have breakfast, and he goes to pay for the breakfast, and his wallet is a Ziploc bag full of cash and pills. Like, not like bad pills. He's not like a drug addict.
Well, I didn't
like
think so.
statins and shit. And I thought to myself, once an immigrant, always an immigrant. Like, the guy's been practicing medicine in this country since the 70s. So by all means, like,
you may get some of these other suckers, but I don't need it.
It just made me laugh so much. My dad is, I know I'm hard on my dad sometimes, but he really is a genuinely funny character. And the other thing was funny is I think he listens to this podcast because he was like, I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and he's like, I hear you're in New Orleans, and I realized this is how my parents find out about where I am is through this particular segment of Majority 54.
Yeah.
I wonder if you just fast forward.
But you got a big week ahead here. I don't know if we're talking about it on air.
Yeah, sure. So I have, today is Wednesday, we're streaming live, and I'm having hernia surgery on Friday morning. Be careful with your lifts, folks.
Yeah.
And it's currently pretty uncomfortable. Not probably as uncomfortable as it'll be over the weekend. But I will say, a lot of people have anxiety about general anesthesia and surgery and that kind of thing, and I do too. But I have found that post-traumatic stress, as much as I've done to address post-traumatic stress that I have, post-traumatic stress and the desire to not lose control of your situation and the concept of going under for general anesthesia, they don't go well together. And I'm experiencing a fair amount of...
I know that one.
The surgery, interestingly. I'm completely fine with the fact that, like, I'm getting abdominal surgery. They're going to cut into my abdomen, laparoscopically, but still. And I understand that I'll be in a fair amount of pain for a few days afterwards, and I have a pretty aggressive rehab schedule after that, and I'm doing all those things to make sure I can get back and play baseball by May. None of that is all that concerning to me. It is literally just like the process of quote unquote going under, even the term.
Dude, I feel you. 100%.
So,
well, good luck, man.
That's where I sit.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
100%. I do have a fear of losing control of my body. That one's no joke.
Like, look, you get there and then we're going to give you medicine and make you feel better. And I'm like, okay, cool, but they can't give it to you until you've seen the doctor and the anesthesiologist. And I was like, look, if I had my brothers, I would like, my wife's driving me there anyway. I would just take it coming.
Yeah.
Which I understand why, but.
You remind me, by the way, I was interviewing this guy the other day in New Orleans, pediatrician. Everybody's like, he's not a pediatrician, he is the pediatrician in New Orleans. I'm like, what does that mean? So I go to meet him, and he has a whole children's hospital named after him, but he still practices medicine. Ross guy's an interesting guy. And he gives me all morning. Like, not only do I interview him, but he walks me to the Starbucks when we're talking. And as I'm walking to the Starbucks, he's like, the man name's on the hospital, and he's like, yeah, what a great family. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, they are from here. And he proceeds to tell me how he has been the pediatrician to every Manning child, including Arch, the new kid. And I'm like, man, there's still communities like this out there. Like, just like guys, like everybody's, he's like Moonlight Graham. This kind of was his vibe. I just loved it. I said this the other day. I had to drink with my buddy last night. He listened to a pod. It's my buddy's from Mississippi. Shout out to Matty B. But he was like, I was listening to your pod the other day, and he was like, we're talking about New Orleans. He's like, man, I agree. He's like, this place is so distinct. And I feel that way every time I interact with anybody who's from this town. It's just like everybody here is just a 10 out of 10 personality. So
it seems to be one of the top places that people work very hard to return to. If they, they go out, they have careers, they do things, and they are usually pretty set on getting back there, and more often than not, they seem to.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people who have a lot of worldly experiences that have decided to return. So
I'm trying to tell that story, because that is in part of the story of Katrina and the education system. A lot of people had to leave and come back, and some of them had left for various reasons and are back. Like, there's a guy I was interviewing the other day who, his dad gets pancreatic cancer in June of 2005. Within like 2 months, his dad dies. Like a week later, Katrina hits, and he had been in New York or something, pursuing an acting career and a career in consulting, and he comes back to it. It's like part of his story is like how he reconnected with the school system and all that. It's like everybody talked to us some kind of story like that. Like they could tell you to the minute when they heard about Katrina or when they experienced it if they were still here.
This is all going to be for a podcast, right? A podcast series.
Yeah, probably like a 6-episode pod. So looking forward to it. There's some real heroes out here. But it is an inspiring story about how everybody came together and there were a lot of debates, a lot of discussion got really heated, but the end result is pretty magical in terms of what they've been able to do. And I'm just focusing on education, but like I'm reminded, when I was at that children's hospital or talking to business owners and stuff, just like how resilient this community has been and how proud it is.
Well, speaking of other podcasts, Robbie and I do on Tuesdays with Adisu Demisi. We're now doing on Valor Media Network, The Game Within, and it streams live 3:30 Central on Tuesdays. Drops on audio on Tuesday evenings. Go on audio, go on YouTube, subscribe to The Game Within, subscribe to the Valor Media Network. I think, honestly, it's a pretty good show. Like,
so much fun.
Yeah, it's how politics and business interact with sports and how sports influences our politics. Like the show, I think you're going to like that show. We've been enjoying doing it a lot. So, and then one more time, tell them your book stuff.
For some of you, that might be right up your alley. I'm not in sports, so don't really mind.
Yes, Garbagetown. Get the book wherever you buy your books. You can pre-order it and go to garbagetownbook.com. You can see those 3 events that I talked about. But you can also Google, St. Louis Book Event with our names in it, or Staten Island, or New York, or just look at any of our socials that are tweeting about it. You can tweeting about it. And we'd love to see you. We haven't done anything live since the pandemic when we were in Kansas City.
That's right. Okay, so please leave a 5-star review here. Please go check out The Game Within. Please come see us at Robbie's events. You can find Robbie at Robbie M. Gupta everywhere. You can find me at Jason Kander everywhere.
Oh. Eat, that's all, folks. Whoa.
How are things going with the necromancer you're dating? Badly? Fighting? Their friend stole their heart. Wait, what would that be? Yeah, that's what I said. They've got like a dozen more in their study. Sometimes I worry they only want me for my body.
Oh, shit. Yo.
YouTube, Steph Springs Nursery. Hi Justin, what are you having for dinner?
I don't know about dinner. This is basically my lunch. Okay, it's only 1:35 for me. Not as late as I was thinking. I'm not sure just yet.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. I keep forgetting that I live 3 hours ahead time-wise.
That's okay. I have to remember people eat dinner as soon as 5. Typically eat closer to 8 or 9. Yeah, still not as good as original recipe using breakfast burritos this time. Alright. It is time to get this stream ended and get into the midday chill stuff. Unless we want to keep up with all this kind of stuff. News, political shit. I don't mind. Otherwise, it seems what we have today.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. Whenever you go to the store, you come back real quick, so do you live close to a store?
There's a corner store that is less than a quarter of a city block away. Maybe half a city block at most. Then the next nearest store is 2 miles away. I usually end up getting a ride. Otherwise, I'm sorry, not 10. It's a 2-hour trip on foot. A little bit under, but it's not bad. Puts me walking about 5 miles an hour. You're okay.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. If I don't always answer you or comment about what you're talking about, I'm sorry. It's because I can only hear like 80% of what you're saying, I guess, because the way the speaker is.
I can take care of the sound issue. Yeah, it's just a little convenience store here in the RV park. It's nothing too frivolous, but hey, it works. They got beer and wine, as well as some other assorted have atoms as you need kind of corner store stuff. Taquitos, some breakfast sandwiches, French bread pizza, that kind of shit. Yeah, a little bit of dairy and sodas and all that. That's right. I need to do this so you guys can actually hear what's going on. Yeah, it just using this headset half the time, it's either going to be hanging around my neck or up on my ears. So I can't exactly use it for listening to newscasts or whatnot. Can, but it's not very comfortable. It's not meant to hang on your neck. Alright. Yeah, just kind of chilling at the moment. News segments are done. Really don't have anything else more to emphasize. It all got touched on today. It's just like when I have one. I used to be a pretty big cyclist. And by pretty big, I mean it was my mode of transportation. One of my exes even said it was basically a mobility device for me. It's like, to some extent, I can't argue with you. I can ride a bike for a lot longer than I can walk. I can certainly get around with one. Shit, 30-mile rides for nothing. Sometimes that was a daily. Oh, I get it. I certainly do. And that's because of the way the audio is set up on the laptop itself, plus all the background noise. Oh, excuse me. It tends to be something I end up using on request. Which I don't mind. Well, I wish that was a pop in my back, but that was a pop in my hand. Still felt good, but not exactly sure what I'm fixing to do yet. I know the stream and everything came crashing down at some point this morning. Oh, the sleep stream, though, that is, well, evening/sleep stream. Because I didn't separate it. I was just like, I'm going to bed. Fuck it. Yeah, Windows has an update. Means I also probably have a driver's update. I am very much one of those. I've also gotten myself in quite a bit of trouble on a bike, figuratively speaking. I've been pulled over for going 55 in a school zone on my bicycle a few different times. To some extent. It does help me kind of experience as close to freedom as I can get. But most of the time I don't have the ability to wander too much. That takes a few other factors. I've heard. Honestly, I think I might be getting ready to lay down for a nap. I had kind of a rough night, sleep-wise. Oh crap. Hey. Other than what I'm doing, no. I don't just have a desire to aspire to a whole lot. I'm content just having a pretty simple life. where I can be happy. As I've said before, I may have a lot of leadership skills and qualities, but I don't want to be a leader. I don't want all the fame. And I know that's something that I'm basically doing here, but it to me doesn't mean that much. Fame doesn't make me happy. Never will. I've made that observation many a time already. Just like money, fame will not make you happy. It's small experiences, small moments that happen in everyday life. Excuse me. Sorry. And then having the right person to share those with. I kind of liked it. I didn't have anything against it whatsoever. What are you looking at? Silly girl. I didn't mind Knight Rider. Of course, Kit was my favorite part. Alright, I don't mean to cut the conversation short, especially now that you can hear me a lot easier. But I think I need to take myself a nap. Not sleeping right definitely is hitting me back right now. So, I'm going to end the stream and take a nap and come back. I will be back on tonight, don't worry. Probably just get a couple hours in, knowing me. Till then, Stephs. See you later. And for everyone who prays, pray that these people come up prayer and start seeing what's going on. Again, I may be the anti-religion guy. I may be the one that laughs at the fucking thought of just prayers as help. No. But if there's any case where it's needed, now's the time. So if you don't pray, send out good vibes. Give it to the universe somehow. Let the universe know that even to you this ain't right. Till next time, this Soul Mage Guy.